That's why I'm near none of them.
Righto, ladies and gentlemen, it's that time of the week. Well, it's actually been a hot minute for us, Danny Curran. It's been a while, actually. We've been busy little beavers out and about being electricians. So we thought we'd...
Being electricians? What's that story?
It's like three wires.
I was going to say, I don't know about any of that sort of stuff.
Yeah, that's exactly right. So, but we're kicking it off. Now, this is one I'm excited for. We've talked it up. We've been off the air for a little bit, so we're bringing a big game in this one. We're joined by none other than Danny Curran. He's got himself off his deathbed.
Oh,
he's meant to be resting up for Finke, but yes. he is here with me right now. And then the man, the myth, the legend, Billy Geddes. What's going on, mate?
Hey, g'day, boys. How you doing?
Hey, actually, Bill, I got to interrupt first off, mate, and I got to talk to you about something. I got a little something for you.
Oh, look at this.
Yeah. He did that live.
There was a lot. Yeah, I did this live to actually prove
I've been texting him all day
went back.
that he never turns up. So, ladies and gentlemen, the story behind this is we went to the King of the Strip, and none other than Josh Curran, the man, the myth, the legend, turned up with no money for the bar. Who would have thought? But he did come good. I think it was due to ribbing. He's turned up with the fitty that he's well due for. So
my request, he did it on the show, so.
On live show. So he did that. So
I'm good for a pineapple. I got to go work for a couple of hours to make that one back, or I'll just go and raid Danny Curran's coin tray in his Y62 after this or something. But we'll go from that. But Bill, we have a very special guest for our first person here. So I'll let you do our intro and welcome him in.
Yeah, we've got Craig Lowndes with us today. He's in the wildcard wildcard car for the V8 Supercars. So yeah, let's bring him on in, eh?
It's so good. Craig, hey, welcome, mate. It's awesome to have you on.
Yeah, thank you, guys. It's great to be on, and it's great to obviously to share the news about the wildcard car, which we managed to finally get built, and we tested it last week. So yeah, looking good.
Yeah, that's awesome, mate. Now, listen, you are a bit of a favourite with us Aussies, obviously, all round. And mate, it's awesome to see you back in racing. I mean, I know you. Let's take it back a couple of steps for all of us that aren't super, up to date. What have you been doing since the? I know you've always been keeping busy with the V8s, but what's the progress been here? Like, what have you been racing?
Well, to be honest, this year I've been focusing on the wildcard car, which is Sandown and Bathurst later in the year. So that for me is something that I'm looking forward to. So since I stepped down full-time in 18, just sort of been migrating into sort of more commentary. So like you guys, just talking about the industry and the racing that I really enjoy, really love watching. And seeing the growth of it, that's really the big thing, and doing a little bit of cameo driving in the time. So doing Sandown and Bathurst this year with Zane Goddard, and actually Zane, he's going to be racing at Darwin this year. This year, but in a couple of weeks' time. So it's going to be really exciting to see him, how he progresses back into the main game and rubbing shoulders with the other drivers.
And you've also been doing a heap of testing on the new gen motors from KRE too.
Yeah, sort of. It's actually been a couple of years progression, to be honest, because the new generation cars, which people now see running around, is this. So we've updated the chassis. We've now got the Camaro and the Mustang, but we've also updated the engine. So we run the Chev engine. Ford run the Coyote engine, which is a massive block with obviously the 4 camshafts, overhead cams. So it's a little bit of a difference, and it's been interesting to sort of see the transition of these new gen cars and how how we've tried to homologate and keep that parity going, because we've gone from an engine. And people probably know that a 5-litre Chev engine, which had 8 trumpets, now we've got one throttle body. To try and get all that into sync has been taking a lot of time. So probably the last 2 years, I've been doing a lot of the behind-the-scenes development with KRE, and because it's now fly-by-wire, so getting the throttle pedal to talk to the butterfly talking to the engine management system. And to be honest, I got to say that since the test last week, I was actually at the race team today doing a debrief, and we did talk a lot about that driver progression of the throttle and how that drivability and how we can make that better going forward.
Yeah, because one of the issues we had with a car with a single throttle body is when you crack that bigger single throttle body, you get so much air come through. Is that something getting drivability out of them and getting to work correctly? Would that be a thing that you've been wrestling with?
You were in our debrief because that was exactly what we're talking about. Because you're right. Once you crack the butterfly, it takes so much air to come into the manifold, and then it sparks up, and so there's that delay. So we're trying to preempt that in trying to fuel the manifold with fuel to then obviously compensate. So for us, it's that heel and toe, that downshifts, and trying to keep that really sharp. So yeah, trying to improvise and trying to get in front of the game in a sense is really being in front of our sort of everything. So and I think we've got our head around it. Like for our side of it with GM, that's something that we've been really working hard at to try and make sure the driver's got the ability to be able to, when they heel and toe, to blip the throttle, to be able to then have that throttle application working really responsibly. And so yeah, that's one big area that we've been working hard at.
Well, we do have one request that we really might need to make sure they blow big flames and make a big bang when you downshift too. That's a big thing. We need that. Well,
we do, and that's also the other thing is now with the new gen cars, we got such a little short exhaust that comes out the passenger side. We do have a lot of flames that come out because we still got a lot of overrun. So again, trying to map all that and get that sorted with KRE and supercars, because also people got to remember every time KRE or Ford build an engine, supercars have got to independently dyno them. So it's something that we're just trying to keep that parity really tight. So every time that Kenny Mack builds an engine that goes down to supercars, they dyno it. They put the little seals on them. They ship them out to race teams. So it's a bit of a process, but it's a good one.
Yeah. And I was talking to Kenny the other day about it. He said that they're getting some really good time on these motors now too. They're really getting the hours out of them. The reliability seems really good.
Well, it is, and that's the good thing, because I'm focusing on later in the year Sandown and Bathurst, which is the enduro side of it. So again, we're lifing everything. So at the moment, the engines for our side of it, and I can only talk about the GM side, is really reliable. Again, 2 years ago, I remember going out to QR and testing these engines, and Kenny we rev them to 7,500 RPM, and Kenny actually raised the rev limiter to 8 and basically sent me out the whole day and said, go and break it. So not often you get an engine builder to go and try and tell some driver to go and break an engine, which, touch wood, we didn't. So yeah, our reliability side of it and our side is really important. And again, people got to remember the difference. So when we developed these engines, camshafts, the lifts, the lobes, everything else was really important. But for us and GM World, it was only one camshaft. So when Ford went through their process, every time they changed the cam lobe, they got 4 to build. And it's been a big undertaking by the Ford side of it.
Yep. So obviously there's been a few skids and like they look a bit of a handful. The new cars sort of living up to the dream of making them a more of a driver's car.
Well, I love it. I got out with the car on last week with a big smile on my face, because it brings me back to the late 80s, the VSVT era, where a driver has to drive them. And I remember, I got out of the car and I talked to Wes McDougall, our engineer, and I said, look, you're really going to have to focus on track to track. So we go to Darwin next. So what are you going to need? You're going to need turn. You're going to need the mid corner. You're going to need to drive off the corner. You can't get this car perfect like you can with the previous one. So we took more than half of the downforce off these current cars. So in relevance, the last year's car had about 400 kilos of downforce at 200 kilometers an hour. These are only got about 140. So we got more than half we've taken off it. So it's a driver's car. It's about looking after the tyre, working out what you're going to do. And the other thing that people got to also take into consideration, and I haven't driven a car without anti-roll bar adjustments inside the cabin for a driver to be able to do. So we've taken all that out. So what you start a race with, and if you start with a shit box on lap 1, you're going to end up with a shit box on lap 31. So it's really important to make sure when you go into a race that you know what you've got.
Yeah, no, that makes a lot of sense, and it's good to see. Like, I think the fans have been really chasing something other than just the methodical, and they want to see a bit of wild, stuff, and bringing the driver out to be the actual guy, pushing the limit more so than just having the car just so dialed in that they're on rails.
Yeah,
actually, cool. I reckon, Billy, you'd suit these cars because they actually like drifting. And so I said at the start of the season that Shane Van Gisbergen and Brodie Kostecki, Cam Waters would actually suit these cars because they do rally, they do sprint cars, they do other stuff. And these cars are like that. They actually move around a lot more. So you've actually got to go with what you've dealt with and deal with it. And so really that's one of, as I said, it's tyre management. It's looking after that whole phase of the car throughout a race. I reckon you'd be pretty good at
it. I remember when you took my truck around the prologue track, I think you spent 3/4 of it sideways, mate. So I got pretty used to looking at my passenger side window.
That was a lot of fun. And actually it's funny, like, I do talk to people a lot about that because obviously, we're so used to the bitumen and being stuck to the road. And then you guys spend half your time either in the air, off the ground or sideways. So it's a whole new world. And I loved it. I reckon it was fantastic, especially when you took me for a run around the test track and you look at things that you guys take for granted like we do in bitumen. And I was cringing, but the truck took it, you took it, and I'm still here talking about it.
But it's the same stuff, like there's no point pushing the foot down if the thing isn't moving forward. So and that's what it's great to see with the new gen cars coming out, that they're getting their power sort of not 100% on the ground. It's up to you to the right foot, and no, it looks awesome so far.
Well, it is, and you're right. Like, the engines they've got about, and to be honest, they're about 40 or 50 horsepower less than what we had last year in the 5-litre era, but the cars are 200 kilos lighter. So the power to weight ratio is very similar. So again, now driven the race car, you talk about wheel spin off corners, you talk about the torque, and again, you're talking about a different engine. So the drivability is really important, but wheel is really something that you got to focus on with these current cars. Is once you burn that rear tire up, that's it, game over.
So are they more torquey? Would you say that this engine's more torquey than the old ones, or are they they less horsepower, less everything?
No, they got very similar torque, less horsepower. So and 200 kilos lighter. So we've got the same tire. So that's no different, but it's just the way the drivability of it. And as you mentioned, that single throttle body is really a big thing. It's something that drivers are really struggling with to basically get that drivability and that finesse. And it doesn't matter what you are, like, driving your truck, is that finesse of getting the power to the ground is really important.
So what litre are they? Are they still 5-litre? What litre are they now?
Well, for our side of it, we've started with a 6-litre Chev, and we've had to downscale, and then the same with the Coyote being 5.4 litre. So we've actually upped the capacity, but we've tried to downscale. So we sort of run our 5.6, they run a 5.4. And again, the interesting thing is, and some of the talk about parity side of it is that the chassis and the aerodynamics are very, very close. It's the dynamic of the engine. So you got to think about the GM Chev engine, single cam, push rod. It spins up quicker than the Coyote engine. So we talk about horsepower, and when you spin these engines up at maximum RPM at 7,500 RPM, they have the same horsepower, but it's how they get there. So the Coyote engine, being a bigger, massive engine, still takes a little bit longer than the GM. So there is still a little bit of parity adjustment we're trying to help, And Ford understanding that, we're understanding that. And again, at the end of the day, we're just trying to make the best. So we all, like, the racing side of it is really entertaining when we can get both manufacturers rubbing shoulders. And at the moment, there's been good racing. Like the brief was reduce downforce, closer racing, and make it entertaining. And I think we're getting that way.
Yep, and also a gearbox change too. So they're out of the Albans now. What are they running? X-Track, are they?
They are running the X-Track. So yeah, sort of almost out of your sort of world. We run that, which has been really interesting. Like, again, the finessing of the drivers. Making sure that the gear cut works well. The recovery from the gear cut is sharp and instant.
Yeah, awesome. Yeah.
Yeah, it's definitely cool to see, and so much development in Australia too with these things, and local shops now. I know it's always been that way, but it's cool to see these things that are very unique to Australian racing that's getting so heavily developed, and then we can use it further on in the sport, can't we? And such an early stage too, Craig. Like there's so far to go with these cars. It's already come so far, but I mean, when you're in a program for 10 years, those little finesses, isn't it, that just make up all those seconds on track.
Well, it does, and it's very interesting that I keep talking about the old days, like the late '90s. So Lara, my wife, actually made a mention which I didn't really think about. So really, Garth Tander and I probably still currently driving and probably remember back in that era. So all the drivers that are complaining about the cars moving around or not braking or not being stuck to the road, they really haven't experienced what we had back in the late '90s. So for me, as I said, I got out of the car and I had a big smile on my face because it actually is all about the driving sense. And again, the debrief today at the race team was and we had 3 cars running around. So we had the 2 Red Bull cars, and we had our Super Cheap Auto car, Wild Card, running around, which Zane Goddard did a lot of the work. But it was all about roll centers, rake, spring rates. It's all the old school stuff that we used to do back then, which now is basically what we need as a toolbox to get these cars fast.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think it's so cool that now the team's really coming back into it. Like, you say we've got that parity, the cars are parity, but there's also parity in making mistakes within a team setup, isn't there? So, like it really, I know the team's always been part of it, and, but we've got to a point now where the cars are so fast and so clean. It's kind of cool that, you can have an off weekend and it can change the championship, can't it?
Oh, massively. And I think we've seen both Brody Kostecki and Shane both have mishaps. Chaz Mostert, the same, had mishaps. And what we're going to see, though, is when we get to Bathurst, which is more exciting for me, is that the cars with the less downforce are going to be more difficult to drive across the top of the mountain, but they're going to be faster down Conrod. So we're going to get back closer to the 300 kilometres an hour we did see in that era when I grew up. So the cars are faster in a straight line. They're more difficult to drive. They're harder under brakes. So for me, as I said, once we get to Sandown and Bathurst, I'm really looking forward to seeing what we can do, because last year we had the best result as a wild card, finishing 8th. So, and I said to Zane, like, he's a young kid. He's been around for a number of years, and he's a great talent. But I've already put some pressure on him and said, look, we're aiming to be on the podium. Like I think we're in for a good shot this year.
Yeah, it's really good to hear, mate. We got some friends that are coming out to Finke that are going to go straight up to Darwin straight after that too. So they're going to be up there to see you.
Yeah, well, it's great to, it's almost tradition. Every year the Finke runs the weekend before Darwin. So there is a lot of people that and we've done it in the past, and we've come and seen you, and that have gone out to the Finke, experienced that side of it, and then migrate north and then and go to Hidden Valley. So we're not going to make it to Finke this year, but really looking forward to seeing what actually Finke provides, because hopefully one day we can get to do it.
Yeah. Well, it was great fun when you guys come out and had that bit of a run around with us, and I think going forward we'll definitely see something going on out there, mate.
Well, Lowndes, am I right too? You've actually ridden a dirt bike to Finke as well, haven't you? Am I on the right track or the wrong track there?
Yeah, we did a Daryl Beattie ride from Birdsville across to across the Simpson, across to Finke, and it was the 40th anniversary. So it was good timing, and it was something that it was a great experience. I actually started my life racing on 2 wheels, and then I migrated to 4 wheels because it was less bones breaking. So for me, it was one of those things that it was really it was entertaining. So I've never done a lot of sand riding, and then once you get your head around it, and once you get understanding of it, even riding the 450, but with the big safari tank full of fuel at the beginning is always top heavy. But by the time you get to the end of it, it's a lot of fun, and then to see the prologue and watch Billy and every guys do the prologue, and then those stories of running down the service road. We went down to the 200-kilometre mark and we pulled camp, and it's a funny story because we got spread out because a couple of bikes got some flat tires, and then I was almost third last to camp, and it was sunset, and I remember because I was flat out down the service road trying to catch up, and I bumped into Jack Perkins, who was on the ride, and he was actually thankful because we both thought we'd missed the service trucks, and then we actually flagged over a oncoming car, and they said no, they're down there another sort of 2 kilometers down on the left. So we finally found camp, and then it was another couple of other guys straggling behind us that didn't make it to camp, and it's one of those stories. Larry Perkins was on the trip with us, and he had his Unimog. And both Daryl Beattie and Larry had to then go and rescue these other 2 riders that had basically found camp and refused to go any further because they thought they'd missed our service trucks, but they hadn't. And I remember Larry Perkins saying to them at one point when he went and got them, it's like, did Burke and Wills ever turn around? And like it was one of those moments where it's like, yep, typical LP, he's up front.
Yeah, before I went to Kenny Mac, we had a terrible experience with engines, and we were just losing engines left and right. And anyway, we decided to frequent the casino and Old Sporty's bar and grill with the guys, and plenty of beer drinking. And anyway, Jamie and myself decided at about 12 o'clock at night that we should do the Finke track or the service road on postie bikes because we had our postie bikes. And yeah, we decided to head out, and we get our fuel along the track from the cruise. And yeah, I was wearing a World War II gunner's helmet for some reason.
For some reason,
probably would have given me more injuries if I fell off than not having it on. But yeah, we got to about the 60K mark, and I don't think I've ever been as cold as that in my whole life. About 4 o'clock in the morning, and there was a random guy with his campfire. We just both made a beeline straight through his campfire and nearly sat on it. Yeah, no, we did that once, and we're never doing that again.
Well, the funny thing was is that when we left Birdsville, like literally 5 minutes into the ride, you lose phone signal. And it's one of those things that we spent 4 days going across the Simpson, and Daryl's got a really great setup and everything else, which is perfect. But it's one of those things that your first night you camp, everyone's like, what do we do? Oh shit, we've got to talk. There's no mobile service, so you actually get right away off the grid, and it was actually a lot of fun. And and as I said, LP come on the road with us. He had his Unimog, and I spent most of my time hating Larry in the sense of being as a competitor, but I actually found he was a really nice guy, and he has got some great stories about the past when he driven Formula One and his upbringing and the way he engineered his cars and everything else. So it was a lot of fun, and it was a great trip, and I'd love to do it again.
Yeah, we go out there for the same reason, boys, don't we? Like the phones are off. You just once you sort of get in Finke mode, and out you go, and you're having conversations with people, even people you don't know. You can just walk up, and they're all there for the same reasons, and they've all got their own stories, and that's what the whole thing about Finke is.
Well, it is, and it's about the volunteers and everyone else that create what the Finke is all about. And I think that it's like a Bathurst for me in the sense of my world. But Finke, you talk to anyone for off-road, and the Finke is it. Like that's the race that you want to be part of, and whether it's on a bike, a quad, side by side, or a trophy truck or a buggy, like it's quite amazing. And I've been out there a number of times, but as you said, Billy, like driving your truck around the prologue and understanding the dynamics of that side of it, and then setting yourself up for then the run down to Apachula, and then come down to Apachula. And I tell people it's like a scene out of Mad Max. Like there's nothing out there, and you got buggies and bikes and trucks all running their rebuilt cars to get the run back to Alice it's really amazing, and I love it. I think that both Lara and I talk about it quite often.
Yeah, we actually just not long got a phone call from Kelsey from out there, getting everything set up for Finke this year. They obviously had a really tough time with the coroner's report coming out about the photographer that got run over a couple of years ago, and you know they've got a message out there just to make number one thing they said, and we might just get you to underline it too, is keep back from that track by 30 meters. Like this year, we nearly lost the race this year, and we don't want to see that happen. Like there's just generations of experiences and fun, and you know this can all go away if people if people just don't be sensible on the track, and we're dealing with a pretty crap time, like. I always enjoy a good time, and I've been noted to do the odd crazy thing myself. But the real main thing we need to be careful of is nowadays everyone is under tight scrutiny. The ledger seems to go one way. I personally do think it's a slippery slope. Like at what point, does one become responsible for themselves? We see some like it's a slippery slope. When do people on the main road start getting persecuted for for accidents and incidents? But that's all that aside, it is up to the people out at Finke out here this year to toe the line, and to, if someone tells you to move, or if you're have a bit of a brain fart, just get away from that track.
Oh, absolutely. And I think that there's no doubt that, that 220 kilometre run down and back again is all of, and safety is paramount, and it doesn't matter where you are, what you do. So, as you mentioned, like that 30 metre barrier, it's not only, safe for you, like for you, Billy, like as a driver, but also as a spectator. So everyone's got to do, play their part, and, let's keep the Finke running.
Yeah, and like you've been in one, and like the inertia and the momentum that we get going. You should never listen to some Facebook pages, but you just see some of the comments of people thinking that, oh well, it's up to the driver to just keep it in there. But and I know that stuff goes sideways, and it goes sideways really quick, and that mentality probably should stay at home, and so should the people if they just don't put in any self-preservation at all.
Oh, absolutely. I think that, as you said, touch wood that everyone does the right thing this year, and, we can continue the Finke on, because it's a great venue. Like it's a great, it attracts people from around the world. It's a great event, and we need to keep it going.
Yep. Well, the guys are busy getting bunning up, and when we get out there, we're going to go give the guys a hand and make sure the old girl keeps going. So, big one, mate. Who's your two different lots? Who's your pick on the bikes? Probably top three, and your top.
Oh, you're putting him on the spot here.
Yeah.
This is rough.
Probably top winner in the car. Do you reckon?
Well, you're not running, so that's a disappointment. Look,
because you would have come last. No.
Well, it's going to be interesting. Obviously, some new trucks come out from the States, and watching what Toby and Paul Will are doing over in the US is quite exciting. So I reckon 100%. He's going to bring some good equipment this year as well. So I reckon that the trucks are going to be actually quite competitive from what I see in the sense of new trucks, and the bikes.
You got Robbo, Bo's there, mate, and mate, he is. They put a lot of work into that new truck, and it's pretty dialed in. So the guys I've been talking to in the last couple of days, and they're all happy in that camp. You got Travie in a buggy again this year too.
Well, the only problem with Bo, I think, is with his right foot. I don't think he lifts it. So hopefully the truck's built for him, not him built for the truck.
Yeah, no, look, he knows how to get it down and get it back, and look, they've definitely got some driving force this year to get them up the top. So they'll have to be going well. But
the other thing, boys, is that it's interesting because we've got our 7-litre rule too. This is the first year we've got bigger motors. Another litre in a truck definitely gives a big advantage. Greg Gartner's got a 7-litre this year. Yep. So Bo's in a 7 litre. Obviously, Toby's gone up to a 7 litre.
Yep.
So you know,
no, I think Toby's got the same engine. I
Okay.
think, yeah.
no worries.
Toby's got the same.
So a
engine.
7 litre.
Yep.
Just kidding. Anyway, so anyway, to you, Lowndes, what do you think about it, mate? Like, do you think that that's going to be a big change? Because I think really the top buggies have all been 3.5 turbo. So really, we're not going to see a speed change from the buggies so much as we're going to see a speed change from the trucks and how that, like, I mean, are they going to run a faster time?
Well, it really comes down to the I suppose the environment, in the sense of the weather and everything else, and the dust and those things. And I think that one thing that you got to appreciate is, and when you talk to people, when you get off the prologue and you're leaving every 2 minutes, that dust is a massive problem, and Billy knows as well as anyone. Like, you got to try and be at the front as you can. So vision and driving to what you can see is the most paramount. So it'll be interesting to see how they adapt to the bigger engine, in the sense of the weight, in the sense of the horsepower, the fuel economy, everything that's going to take on board with everything else now expanding to that side of it. So that'll be interesting. The other thing, getting back to Billy's side of it, like the bikes, like from what I read, Dan Sanders is done some damage. So that's a shame, because I would have really loved to watch him do the Finke this
year. Yeah,
absolutely, mate. That definitely would have been one that would have been very quick. That is a shame when we heard that bit of information, where there was definitely some text going around about how that will affect it. But obviously, I mean, there's Walshy and those boys are always fast. So it's going to be interesting there too. I mean, even the Smith, like there's so many guys there that are sneaky and fast. We talk about it constantly, Craig, about who could win, and some people say there's only 1 or 2 guys that can win, but man, there's 15 or so sneakies that can just come out of the woodworks fast. And there's fast locals, there's fast South Australian farmers, there's just guys out of everywhere that come, and it'll be very interesting. Now, the other thing, Craig, oh, sorry, you go.
No, I was just going to say, because I remember when I last out there and I spoke to Walshy about it, and he said when he left the prologue and he was heading down to Apachula, like I think he said he almost travelled on his front wheel for about he said a kilometre, so I'm assuming it's a little bit less than that. But he said if you don't get close to dying 3 or 4 times down on the run down or back, it's one of those things that you're not pushing hard enough. So it's quite a commitment.
Yeah. I've got a little wild list here that me and old Rexy, who does a fair bit of work for Grabbo, we threw together while drinking a couple of beers. So it's going to be hard to pass up Walshy 100% on this one without really having Toby there or Chucky there. But I wouldn't. We can't rule out Norton. He's been riding Buddy really well. We got obviously Grabbo.
He's riding really well at the moment, so fast.
Man, I'll tell you, he's so Grabbo's been doing some riding lessons out there. Have you seen this, Craig?
No, I haven't. No, not yet.
So Grabbo, when we first met Toby, Grabbo was obviously the quickest out there by a long way, and he was winning races by minutes. And then Grabbo had a bit of a crash off his bike as they do, and did a bit of back damage, and he sort of ventured out of the riding side of it, but he's getting a lot of hours and tuning wise on these bikes, and taking guys down Finke. And it turns out, like, he's cracking some good numbers going down there. And I've actually got him I've nearly got him on a podium, to be perfectly honest. If he
very possible, I reckon.
If he can do it.
So to fill people in there that don't sort of know with Grabbo, is he now runs an adventure program called Grabbo's Track and Trail. Yep. So you can actually rock up to Finke. I think Seton Battle did it,
and said it was the best thing ever.
Pay an X amount of dollars, and they actually give you a setup bike. You give him your weight, everything like that, and they go through and tune it, set up the suspension, and then you go out and do some tests with them. So I guess, if you're looking to race Finke on a bike, and you want to be semi-competitive, it's a good way to go. And obviously Grabbo's getting a lot of seat time doing that himself.
Well, also, boys, the other thing I'll say, and as all you guys that have raced, and everyone will understand this, take it from someone that has raced, if you think his prices are expensive, you wait and go and race on your own bike. And I'm telling you, you'll actually say, like, Seaton was like, that was the best deal. I flew in, I raced. I think they even gave him gear and everything.
Yeah,
I think he had his helmet, and so it was a really good deal. And yeah, again, it'll sound like we're on the pitch for him. We're actually not. We're not on the payroll at all. But I can tell you, when he said
Grabbo wouldn't pay you much.
no, but it was just something that, like, it's when you see a hole in the market that you didn't even realize was there, you're like, why hasn't someone done this before? It's brilliant. He's doing it at Don River Dash as well. So good. So
we can hook you up with a phone number if you want, Craig, a bit later on.
Yeah, I think I've been. Maybe it was 10 years ago. I might have said yes, but I don't bounce anymore. I break.
Yeah. We can relate to that, mate. I'm in the same boat.
Well, the old saying is, with age comes a cage. So that's what the smart men are doing these days.
But getting back to this list, you've got Longy on a bike out there again.
I was just about to say, is Longy on that list? Because he's been out there running some good times as well.
Longy's on a bike. You got Jake Smith. He's been out there toiling away, and of course Hazy, Luke Hayes. Like, he's local out there, and you can't get any more local than that. He's on the track.
Yeah, and then there's always sneakies too that you don't really see coming. There's a lot of young, fast guys that are coming through, and like, it's often that, you sort of like, oh, where'd that guy come from? Now, probably not for a podium, but, like, you can sneak someone into that top 10 that you really didn't see coming. So, yeah, it's going to be an interesting year.
Bradley Greenfield. So, Stephen Greenfield's young fella.
Didn't even think of him.
He had a top 20 finish last year as well. So, plenty of history and good lineage there, being Stephen Greenfield's young fella as well. So, yeah.
Well, listen, I'm sorry, boys. We got sidetracked there, Craig, because we sort of get on this Finke, because Finke's so close. And I got to be honest that, as you guys know, car guys, I mean, we're obviously motorbike guys as well, but being particularly car guys, we were very worried about it not happening. Obviously, I don't know if we can stress that enough. But Craig, I was actually thinking one thing that I wanted to ask you, because you told that brilliant story about your Finke run, and you're right. That's pretty much what almost all off-road and heck, this podcast's about. Can I ask you one other question? Have you got a great story? Because I'm throwing you in a spot here, but have you got a safari story that, like, we just haven't heard or we don't know, or something that happened? Because anyone that doesn't know, tell me, again, I'll actually let you, how did you get involved in racing in safari? Because that's a great story in its own. And then, to go safari racing, it's a shame that's not still running, because that was actually one of the things I can tell you. Josh and I were desperately wanting to go safari racing. That was just a little bit before our time. We were actually building a car to go and do it, and then it all wrapped up. But like back in the day with Safari and Kondo, that was the real deal, wasn't it?
It was, and it was one of those things that, to be honest, I've never raced a car with someone beside me, or not being able to pre-run anything. So it was actually Keys Wheel, PWR, that put the Colorado together, and he'd run it a couple of years prior, and then he rang me up, and Paul Wheel, his son, his wife Emma was having a baby, and then of course I got the call up to drive it that year, and to have Keys beside me and everything else was really important, and he just used to say to me, he goes, "Cock, just drive to what you can see," and that's all I did. And I remember at one point we were running down this stretch of a dirt road or track. I had trees down the left-hand side of me. I had a barbed wire fence on the right-hand side of me, and the Colorado was good for 230 kilometers an hour top, with a 6-liter Chev in the front of it. And I remember him saying, "Oh, I've got another 3 kilometers. The next call's 90 left." And I remember looking up into the distance and seeing all this yellow and black bunting. And I said, "You sure it's 3 kilometers?" Yeah. Anyway, jumped on the brakes, got back to the bivouac, and everyone complained about the zero car that had gone through it, and said obviously all the waypoints had done that distance, and a lot of us almost come to a near miss. But it was one of those moments where you race to something, to whatever you can see, and for me it was a great experience.
And in those days, Craig, how many days were you racing?
I was full time at that time, so I was.
Sorry, I should have explained that. How long was Safari? Because it went through a few eras there. Like, it was 8 days, and it was 4 days, and it sort of went through a few different changes there. And you're obviously part of the Western Australia era.
Yes, no. So we did it was I think it was 8 days. It was 4,500 kilometers or something. Like, we were doing 800 kilometers a day. So it was really amazing experience, as I said, to do all that side of it.
And some truly amazing characters in those days too. You know, that was back in the day of Ivan and you know, Grabo was there. There was a lot of guys that had done a lot. The Smith boys were mad, you know, Safari guys. It was a big deal back in those days in the early 2000s. And yeah, it was cool. I used to love that stuff. It was so good.
It was, and it was a great, as I said, it was a great experience. And as you said, it was a shame that it's not continuing.
Yeah, very difficult because again, it comes back to that. You know, it's very hard to get massive big properties and insurance and all the other things that, you know, you drive in race cars essentially on bitumen bivouac roads and that sort of thing. It's getting harder and harder to do the things we love in that sense, you know, just Mexico now.
Yeah, exactly right.
Yeah, no, that's awesome, mate. It is absolutely fantastic. And, you know, it's so cool to hear that, you know, again, you've got such a great, vast experience from riding those dirt bikes, you know, all the way through to, I know you've got kart experience, you've got V8 supercars, obviously, which is the highlight, but, you know, the dirt as well, driven trophy trucks. Heck, even, I think you did a little bit of steering at a very famous place for us Queenslanders, a bit of Land Cruiser Mountain Park back in the day.
Yeah, that used to be, it's not far from home, and yeah, that used to be a great park to be able to take the 4-wheel drive and go and do some crazy things. I think that as you get older, you're basically you're a bit wiser and let the younger generation do all the crazy stuff now.
Yeah, I mean, we talk about it again on this podcast that a lot of us CQ boys come through that Land Cruiser Mountain Park. Like, there's a lot of guys now that are racing because of that park. Like, it's an amazing place.
Well, that's pretty much what I did. Like, we still, I don't know if you know, mate, but I actually did a bit of winch challenge stuff there for about 15 minutes. And I just couldn't understand this compulsory winching up hills and all this stuff. It just didn't make any sense to me. So we ended up down at Cruiser Park and building cars with heaps too big engines and breaking a lot of shit and then we obviously moved into the off-road scene. So Cruiser Park holds a big spot in my heart, and Elbin, and I used to love Elbin's commentary. Like, well, I remember the hill drags. Who here hasn't done the hill drag? And he points up the hill and he goes, "See that shit house? If you hit it, you fucked up." He was a funny guy.
Yeah, it was a different era. There's no question about that. They were racing. Men were men. Yeah, it was a good time.
Hey, Craig, if we could just circle back around to the V8 supercars for a little bit, because you definitely are an icon of the V8 supercars, but you were talking about these modern cars, I guess, or the newer cars. They're Gen 4 cars that you're saying with the less downforce and they're a bit different to drive, and you'll actually start to see some pretty competitive racing with the different downforces. Some cars will be extremely quick over the top at Bathurst. Some cars will be fast down the straight. Do you think we're going to see a bit of a regression? And I've used that word not in a bad way, but back to say like Group C racing back in the late or early 90s when cars had their strong points, had their bad points, and we'll see a championship that will chop and change where you'll have good weekends, bad weekends, and teams and drivers are going to have to scramble and make the most on their bad weekend, and then also capitalize on their good weekend. Do you think we'll see a championship that will seesaw a lot this year, or do you think it'll be the cars that are out front now are going to be the cars that will sort of be the ones to watch for the rest of the year?
I think it's an exciting year because the cars are unknown and everyone's still searching to find the optimum setup. So I think it's one of those things that you will see a different seesawing year. At the moment, Brody Gasecki and the Erebus team are doing a fantastic job, and Championship's all about being consistent. And they're the best at it at the moment. So we'll just have to wait and see. But yeah, it's an interesting era. Hopefully it throws in a new mix.
Yeah, no, it's awesome. It's always good to see, again, when drivers are rewarded for driving well. You know what I mean? Like, it's tough because I know at that level that everyone is a fantastic driver. There's no question about that. But yeah, like you said, championships can be won on your bad days and making the best of a situation that might be less than ideal. And it's cool. It just mixes it up again, doesn't it? It's always good when people are under pressure. It's good in racing, all our racing. It's good in motocross. It's great.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's just really going to come down to teams that are getting the best out of their cars and everything else. So, look, it's going to be a hell of a year, that's for sure.
Awesome. Now, mate, before we let you go, because we appreciate your time, we know that you're a very busy boy. Have you got one final little dirt bike story or dirt story? Because we are the Dirt Bags podcast, so we love a dirt story. Have you got something, that you remember from a young fella, like a lesson learnt? Maybe you can pass on a bit of that racing knowledge that maybe the dirt tasted a little bit harder than it used to, or?
Well, I remember back in '84, and that's a long time ago, that when I did start racing in Victoria, I was second in Victorian Championships at a motocross at Broadford. There was a boom that I just, for some reason, mentally blanked. I couldn't go around it. I kept going over it. My father said at the time, if you jump over that one more time, I'm selling your bike and take it off you. So I learned very quickly to go around the corner.
So the lesson there is listen to Dad.
Yeah,
he knows what's up.
Yeah, definitely listen to Dad.
Listen to some of those guys that have been there and done that.
Yeah, absolutely.
Oh, awesome, mate. Well, listen, thank you so much for your time. We'll let you go because we know it's a long night for you, but we appreciate it very much, mate. We appreciate your insight into not just the V8 supercars, but your Finke experience, your adventure, your safari. It is truly a pleasure, and we'll have to have you back on one time for a bit longer one. But yeah, mate, it is cool to see because a lot of guys get stuck in a sport, don't they? And I'm not. That's smart because, I mean, if you want to win, you got to be not a jack of all trades, but you seem to be a guy that is a jack of all trades. I don't mean that but
has won
championships,
yes.
And that's a hard thing to do, believe it or not. So, often when we overcommit to a few things, but you've done a lot of racing in a lot of different places and made you've made a lot of Australians very happy, and we've enjoyed your time.
No worries. Thank you very much, guys. And chat soon.
Righto,
Awesome,
brother.
Thank you very much.
We'll chat to you soon, mate.
Yeah, what a pleasure to have Craig on. An absolute gem of a bloke and an absolute icon in off-road racing. Oh, sorry, an absolute icon in racing in Australia, full stop, in general, and hopefully not too long until we actually see him behind the wheel of an off-road car at an actual full-time event, like, say, goes to Gundy and races Gundy or something like that. I think that'd be a great event for him to dip his toe in the water.
Well, definitely when we, when we were out at Finke and he got in the truck straight up, like same as when Toby got in, like they just, that racing mentality, when everyone makes a mistake, but it's what you do when you make the mistake. Just point the thing the right direction and just stay in it. And yeah, we had some pretty wild rides going around some corners there, but just unbelievable, speed perception and yeah, it's great to see people prepared to put themselves in that position too, to go and drive something new and to be in a totally different situation. Makes all of our sport more pleasurable, more fun, more laid back, and
gets more eyes on it.
Yeah, it gets more eyes on it, and right now, Finke needs some good light, and we appreciate Craig's time, man.
Yeah, absolutely, and it was cool to hear him talk about the different eras of racing too, because he has done a few eras of, like he's been through that loose and fast car, and they've tightened him up, and then put it back on, like all the cars are quite tight and close, and they've gone back, and to see how the new drivers are dealing with that and how they're working through it, and it's cool to just see a guy like that can just he can just paddle.
Well, I'm actually really excited about Bathurst this year. Like normally it's sort of over the years it did get a little mundane to me. Like just every car just following the leader, and I can't wait to see these wild things come over.
Yeah, and it's because that's right. It's not on the teams; they're just doing what they've got to do with what they're provided to win. They're all trying to win championships, and again, we'd all be in the same boat. But it is cool when you can see that a car can be loose, it can be set up different, it can change a bit. Again, the different ways the performance works with the different motors. Yeah, it's cool. And it's cool. I always love seeing the development within Australia, because it does 100% translate down to, us guys at a grassroots level. You end up with 8 stacks, and you end up with different throttle bodies and tuners, and, KRE's engine program, even though your program isn't the same as them, what they learn with maintenance and development, reliability. Because even down to, like, isn't it crazy that you can just rev a motor all day at 8.5?
Yeah.
And, I know lots of young fellas listen, they'll be, well, we do that. NASCAR does it all the time. Yeah, but you didn't do that in the 80s. You didn't do it in the 70s. What you're talking about with Bathurst, like, back in the day when it was literally minis racing GDHOs, and the GDHOs would run away up the hill, and then the minis would claw them back in, and then they run away again. Like, it was good fun racing. It was entertaining to watch, and that's why people loved it.
Yeah.
So, yeah, it'll be interesting to see, Bathurst and all the racing, and, yeah, again, it would be cool to see Craig have a you know, a bit of a longer chop at a race like a Gundy or something like that. It'd be really good because, like you said, there's no question that anyone that can compete at the top of the level, they bring that mentality and that game. And you know, Toby's a prime example.
Prime example.
Yeah. And you know, like Grabbo would be another one. Like you imagine throwing Grabbo in a truck, no doubt.
Oh,
he would be
a lot of these
the
bike boys, you know,
yeah,
like
exactly.
the trucks are so much like a bike. Like,
Yes.
you know, well, I can't speak for the buggy guys because that's on your
a
side
bit
of the table.
rougher for us.
Yeah, no, look, but it is very much like a bike mentality, and anyone who's spent some time on a bike, you know, in the dirt, they sure as hell understand the moving to four wheels on.
Well, mate, your pit crew's already in you, mate. Steve's just jumped on and he said, well, Craig should drive one way next year. So they're already trying to take the keys off you, mate.
Oh, jeez, man.
No keys on that bad boy.
Hey, my man.
Well,
Hey, now listen, we will get to Finke, ladies and gentlemen. No doubt you know that we're going to talk about Finke because that's all we tend to do. But what we should hit up is we had an awesome race on the weekend up here for us locally at CQ. It was at Benaraby and it was run by the Dobinson boys.
Well, you know, explain it. Yeah, obviously sponsored by Dobinson Spring and Suspension, and you know, like what a refreshing weekend, really. Like there's you know, so many different walks of life there. Some really quick cars, like big power,
silly quick
power.
Cars.
Oof. And but just explain to people that don't that aren't aware from the CQ area what the you know, what the format is down there.
Yeah, so realistically, they run it very much just like a drag event, and then it is down to you know, stage time. So you do your qualifying during the day. They run it in groups, so it's diesel unlimited, petrol unlimited, don't they?
No, I think diesel was just
all just lumped.
Yeah. So yeah, petrol limited, petrol unlimited, and then you had diesel.
Yep.
Gotcha.
Yeah. So you had everything from work utes to you know, Sharka's whatever that thing is.
One use that twin turbo.
The twin turbo supercharged Ram as well.
Yes,
there was lots of things.
Dobbos,
there's a couple of
well, we should slow down again. Hold on, guys.
We're moving.
Let's talk about it because that's where we need to run through some of these cars. So the guys just rattled off some cars there. There was essentially a single cab GQ Ute that is converted to essentially a street drag car with a 1UZ. It's beautifully turned out. It's known as Shucker around here. And it's got a 1UZ and it was just blisteringly quick.
Yeah, well, that was I think the quickest run of the weekend.
Absolutely,
I'm pretty sure.
Yeah,
I've got sent a heap of stuff here, but you're the tech guy. You do all the you do the stats. I'll do.
We'll run through them, but then another couple of standout cars is what you're talking about.
We won't show that to Bill.
Yeah, coffee. A couple other standouts. There was a TRX there, like a Dodge Ram with the supercharger, but it also had 2 low slung turbos on it or through the exhaust system. And that thing was rolling off 1070s.
And it wasn't even, it was having issues. It was confusing the gearbox. So the gearbox wasn't even
as it would. It go,
like
where did this horsepower come from?
Why?
And what's crazy is it's built with 760 horsepower and it's still going, hey, what are we doing here, team?
Yeah, guys, come on now.
Yeah, I mean, there was none other than your man, Alan Cornick. He had a fantastic run. Not only did he do a skid of the weekend.
Yeah, he won the skid, which I'm very impressed about.
Yep. But they were doing, I believe, no doubt, Cornick. Well, if Cornick was here, he could tell us his weekend.
I know, bloody soot.
Weak as water.
Bloody hell.
Anyway, the moral of the story.
So Hoggy's been on, Jeffro's been on, and
Cornick's scared. That's what he is. Anyway, 1250s, and then he actually got out the laptop, did some tuning, and was running 1150s by the end of it.
Yeah.
Like out of a turbo 6-liter alloy block too.
Yeah, pulled like a 100-meter wheelie or something.
Crazy. In a GU wagon, that is essentially a daily driver. Like, I know it's not a daily
driver. Well, he towed the trailer home and popped the tires back off it and towed his trailer home and she's all good.
Yep. Nick Hogg was another guy that we've had on board with us before. He rattled off a 12.1 best, which is super impressive. It's a cast iron block 6-liter turbo, single turbo shorty. It's that panel one. The boys from
the Fridge.
Yeah, exactly. Pig Motorsport. And I mean, it's again, I don't want to throw out this street car thing too much, but again, if he's not driving the daily, like if, you know, it's a nice day, he'll drive it to work. He'll do bits and pieces in it. Like, it's not like it's a trailer queen, you know, like for these 4-wheel drives, because they're getting in at 3 ton by the time you've got a cage and a bit of other stuff. And they're not really, I mean, I know there was a few cars down there on small tires, but well, Nismo was down there, none other than Mark Warrender. And I mean, he was running his Duramax down the track on Nitto mud grapplers because that's a good choice for a drag tire. But you know, how cool is that? And it's just so good to see all these guys just out, you know, racing. And again, we've sort of talked about, you know, Nissan perform, and they were, see how I'm going to get caught here because the other one that we got to mention now, boy Russell Mason, who's been on the podcast here, he ran a 1140, 1140 out of that, and that's the guy, ladies and gentlemen, that's got it's a 4.2 block with a 4.5
block.
I don't know. I can't keep up with
it. It's a 4.5 block with a stock 4.8 crank in it.
Yes.
To make it somewhere near 4.8 liters.
Yeah, something like that.
Yeah, and it basically, it's just a concoction of parts with 2 turbos with gates that open. And
it starts on one turbo, switches over to the other turbo, and
switches to both. Then it's
on now on E85.
Yeah. I'll be getting this all wrong, Russell. I'm sorry, man,
and he'll be very frustrated with us because he's told us about 30 times. But you got to understand, no one understands what's inside that motor. No one knows.
We just get this like, cool.
Yes. This guy is such a weapon. We have literally seen him going through boxes of rods in his shed and go, yeah, that one looks all right. Oh, no, not that one. So this is our Mason. He is a law unto himself. But to run an 1140 out of that shorty, that again, it is a street car. We talked about it on this podcast right here and he'd forgotten half the things he did where we talked about towing trailers and rooftop tents, doing Coffs Harbour on top. Like that thing's a street car. Like,
he's definitely done some miles
street car, but
But even like Trav Hanrahan in that whatever the hell that thing is. What motor's in that sucker? In the old GQ?
Yeah,
the silver one. I think it's a supercharged big block. I think.
Oh, right.
Space.
Yeah. It's a cool car.
It's
a nice looking car too.
Yeah.
Because it's the light silver over dark grey one.
Yeah. So he couldn't run 4-wheel drive, so he was running skinny tires. They did post up his time there.
Yep.
Did you see that time come through?
Let's have a look.
Yeah,
there's a big list.
Let's get the list because there's plenty. And then you got Dave Casey in the little Suzuki.
Yes,
ended up having gearbox issues, I believe, later in the night. Yep.
Yeah,
which is to be expected.
Well, that was its first sort of run in hate, and it pulled some good times.
Yes.
Obviously, gearing was probably a little high in it by the looks of it.
Yep.
But he kept it together and had it going nice and straight down the track.
Yeah,
and obviously, Dave's been doing a bit of the V8 Utes.
Yes.
He's been down there with Bendix and those guys. And
well, the other one we were talking about it at the track was that FJ40 on coilovers with the LS in it.
That was
straight, like it was low 13s.
Did not expect that.
Yep, and tracked beautiful and straight down that drag strip,
and consistent
and consistently as well. Yeah, yep. I'm willing to call it out. I'm going to say that I think there's lots of other places that like to claim it, but CQ has always been the mecca, and definitely has the fastest street-driven 4-wheel drives.
Yeah, I like the street-driven thing because I think that's the truth.
Yeah, and it is. Yeah,
and genuine 4-wheel drives. So they
all got to get a Fibrox.
That's exactly.
I've got Ben Dobinson. Literally, thanks Ben. I really appreciate it. So it's a Trav ran 1150, and it's a supercharged big block. It's a war speed motor.
Yeah,
so a few of them have war speed motors. Cornet's very tied up with war speed, and so that's awesome, and it is a very fast car. And again, they're full bodied. It's not like they've got cutout doors. It's no chainsaw. So, like it's pretty cool.
No chainsaw.
Not lightened, race lightened.
Straight up tetanus off that thing.
yeah. There was a few that looked like they give you tetanus.
Yeah, that's true too.
Are we still talking about cars? No.
Sorry if I missed that for a second. The purple shorty. Huge cut. No, you know the GQ that was doing wheel stands.
With on the slicks. Yeah.
Oh my goodness, that was wild. Like there was just so many cool cars there, and even a few sneakies. Like there was Lionel Durry had his BT50 there that they were having gearbox issues, but he was sneaking into, I think it was running low 14s with the gearbox issues, and that's out of a BT50 that's like literally just a work tilly that he's got. So like that's
well, it's a fun weekend. The guys, it was really good for the Benarabi guys to actually hold the event, and Benny for putting it on from Dobbo Spring and Suspension. But like to have guys go down there with their rides and be able to have a fun weekend, not break a heap of stuff, and put on such a good show. I think it's going to get great traction.
Well, especially there was plenty of cars. So I was actually coming back up the highway on Sunday, and the amount of vehicles that had come from down south, that's so cool that it's also got that support, because we did talk a big game, CQ, that we're badass and all that sort of stuff. But it's cool to see other areas supporting it too. They're getting into it. It's a different style, because a lot of these guys obviously again do wheel their cars regularly.
Heath come up with the lad with the Duramax
with the Telstra truck.
Yeah, with the Telstra truck. Yeah, it was a full-blown Telstra truck.
That was the fastest diesel, wasn't it?
That was the fastest diesel. Yes.
And I think
it didn't win because he blew his dial out.
And they were having dramas with it. Having a quick chat to Heath on the weekend, he was saying
Scott Connolly.
Yes.
Could be. Yeah.
And it ran 11.3.
Yeah. Holding about 40 pound of boost, and then it'd go into top and would spike to about 50, 55 pound of boost on a stock bottom end. So Heath was sweating a few bullets every time it got to about half
emotional look on his face. But no, it was a bloody healthy car and was running some great numbers. Yeah. I think I did a 12. Did it do a 12.2?
Low 11s.
Low 11s.
Yes.
Yeah. They were 11.2.
They were hoping to crack into the hoping to crack into the 10s, but just I think they with the boost issues they didn't quite push it as hard as what they wanted.
I wonder, did they use the shot of NOS on it?
No,
they didn't.
No, I don't think so. Yeah. But if you remember a little while ago, back when they do is it Diesel Assault or whatever they do at Willowbank? Yeah, it was racing there when Heath was racing his wagon, and it actually had the full Telstra body on the back of it. So it was a leaf sprung Telstra body, had the step and everything to get onto the roof. Like that, so cool. With the Duramax in it,
and did you see the 80 series with a Swaftech? FTE in it.
It did very well.
It ran some good numbers. It ran strong.
Was it? I want to say, was it low 14, something like that?
I believe so.
Yeah, which is quick. So. I mean, like we're talking about a full-size, street-driven, daily-driven, with an FTE.
Full wagon.
It's interesting that trend is taken off, putting the FTEs in the Nissans, isn't it?
Yeah, was never a done thing in it. Everyone just loved their kettles.
Yes, yeah. And if you loved an FTE, you just kept it in a cruiser. You know what I mean? Like it made sort of sense. But no, like now that sliding them in, there's quite a few going around now. And yeah, so that's cool. Hey, again, Ben's on, which is awesome because he's talking, and it's reminding me because the other car that I didn't even think about when we were talking before, boys, is that 80. Remember that rusted 80 that had the LS in it?
The 80?
Yeah. And I saw it on the road too. Well, they were just saying it ran 1190s, and it's literally a junkyard stock LS1, stock gearbox, stock drivetrain, stock everything. Just got two GT28s bolted on the side of it. So
it's twin turbo.
How cool is that? But it literally is just like it looks like every grandfather 80 series with rust. Like it looks like it comes straight off Fraser Island on the rentals. Yes. And and it's so cool, isn't it? So it's cool that those things are out there and doing those things. And because again, take this how you want it. 15 years ago, like really, there was only a handful of really big horsepower cars getting around. Most cars were tuned up or tweaked. Like, it wasn't so long ago if you had a GD28 roller on your TD42 and had 150 horsepower, you were going fast.
When we cracked the 200, that was a big deal.
It was a nuts car. That's what I mean. Like, now every man, his dog's got a 300 horsepower TD and
a three-piece crank. So 300 horsepower, 3-piece crank.
It makes it easier to remove when you pull it out in 3 pieces.
But yes,
why is my clutch moving again?
Yeah.
No, so it's very cool, and it was such a well-run event. And I mean, and then at the end, as you mentioned there, we talked about Cordic doing the big skid. The photos are all over the internet, as you can imagine, and
blowing heaps of flames, which we love to see.
Oh, actually, every time in the pits after he'd done a run, and it's coming back down the do they call it a service road still?
Yes.
And the pit road, and it's just shooting flames.
I saw in the group chat someone's family lives down in Benarabi, and they said, "Gee, the fireworks were allowed down there."
Fireworks, no
fireworks.
Yes,
that had to be old mate in that shorty that did the wheel stand with the bar in it, because he was and I don't think it's the spicy tune pop like say Cornick, and I think it was actually literally key bangers. So he'd put on the limiter and turn it off and hold it flat, and then start it again to get a big pop out of it. So nothing
Steve
like
Holgate to be proud.
Yeah, the old key bangers. It's
I love it. No, but it was just such a great event. And, like the food, like I obviously took my partner down and she walked through the pits and she's like,
of course, you're talking about the food.
What the hell?
Oi, you know what's funny?
Who bought him?
Oi, who,
I know,
who, bought,
I
who
paid-
bought a pizza and instantly went, "Oh, give us a bit, give us a bit, mate." Yeah, exactly. We all know. And then, hey, did you pay? Where's my 50, mate?
You don't deserve nothing, mate.
Right. Anyway, long story short is, did you like walking through the pits? Shirts. You could buy merchandise. You could buy pizzas. You could buy burgers.
There was a bar there, reasonably priced as well. Which which is something that's big. Obviously they've got the market cornered, but they didn't overcharge.
Shaded areas for spectators. Like it's not like, because we probably hope we didn't make it sound. It is a great event for young males to go down to and have a good time, because it's like that. But kids were there. There was plenty of activities for everyone, and I think that Dobbo's really done a great job putting that on and making it happen. So
yeah, well, and the guys from Monaraby too. Like, it was so refreshing to see the guy doing the driver's briefing and explaining, because I don't know a damn thing about drag racing except you start at one end and go to the other, and I knew nothing about dial-ins and stuff like that.
And if you hit the shed at the end, you've
Albin, you idiot.
Yep.
And so it was interesting to see, and the way they went about it, and they just had a welcoming approach to new people coming to do the sport, which I thought was admirable, and they really included new guys and didn't make them feel like idiots. And I thought it was it's something that any young fella could throw something together and go down there and have a whale of a weekend.
Yeah, and you don't need a turbo LS or something. Like, there was plenty of guys there in GQs with just a little pump tweak, having a good time racing their mates.
There was that 48 down there that sounded like a 10 car that was stuck in a creek on the rev limiter, and they went for Smoko.
Yes, they were definitely giving it the
berries.
berries.
Oh my God, I think my ears are still ringing from that.
Yeah. Yep. But again, there was a couple of guys in their street Tritons, King's tents on, that. So and consistency would have put them in a good position, honestly, to have a good run.
Well, like you were talking about before, and we sort of got a bit sidetracked talking about performance, but yes, it is a dial your own handicap bracket, and the idea behind that means you, from your qualifying, you select or you nominate your own time, and even though you and the competitor that's in the other lane will start at different times, it's still first across the line without going faster than what you nominated. Otherwise, you break out. So consistency.
It's crazy because it sounds very interesting, but from my old drag days, I can tell you it's actually a bit of a pain in the neck sometimes. You're like,
very hard.
It sounds like a complicated, a way to stuff up a good race.
Yes, yeah.
Well, I think that's what I've always liked about racing. You start here and you finish here. It kind of doesn't matter what happens in the middle.
Well, I think the idea behind that is they don't have to run 50 million classes as well. I think the idea is that they don't have to do a diesel standard, a diesel performance, yes, they do the petrol limited and the petrol unlimited, but that's sort of probably required. But I think it alleviates them from having to do 100,000 classes, so everyone sort of gets a fair go, but then also brings that interesting element into it.
And exactly like their reaction time, like when they post up their reaction time. Actually, we talked about Ben organising, but Benny's reaction time on that tree, man, holy,
fast car,
especially in a clutch car.
Yes, very cool.
You've only got 2 feet. There's 3 pedals, man.
Yes,
got to work some special stuff down there.
Yeah.
No, it's very cool.
And he's got a really unhappy gearbox this week too, I'm told.
There's a few of them that
pretty sure every manual car from that weekend.
Oh, there's going to be some Hilux diffs down. I reckon there'll be plenty of searching for Hilux centers.
Yes, absolutely.
There's some not so much LSDs.
I also think there'll be some rear Triton and rear Colorado brakes. We
saw a couple of clutch burnouts too, which were pretty cool.
Yeah.
When the rev limiter is bouncing and the wheels aren't moving.
And in the burnout comp, I think people didn't know the old vice grip trick on the rear brake line, because there was a few cars that had the old rear brake fire as well when they pulled up after doing the burnout. But always a good time at the Dobinson's King of the Strip. But and also, like, hats off to those guys as well. I think in the week leading up to, with the amount of cars that were scheduled there, the prize money went from $6,500 to almost $10,500 for the weekend for the different classes and stuff like that, which is huge. Like, that's a awesome thing for that event. Like, plenty of prize money, hang out in the pits with your friends, your family, your missus, everything like that, and have a good time. And then straight up the bow wow.
Did that happen? I haven't seen anything.
No.
No.
Well,
Quite.
Rocky Nats was obviously another thing that we had recently here in Rocky and was massive.
Yep, and the 4-wheel drives represented again.
Yep. No,
Yeah,
and
it was cool.
Dave did a great job of organising that.
He did do a great job. That was awesome.
Really good. Yeah, it was good to be part of. Took my old diesel in there for a bit of a look around, and they nearly got in a little bit of trouble for doing a burnout here and there. but no, look,
isn't that everyone's Rocky Nats story though?
100%. It's just you just got to be smart enough not to get caught.
Yeah, no, that was awesome in that area, and because the 4-wheel drives now are so popular with the kids, like they can really relate to it. Dad's got this, and and then all of a sudden, well, that's a little bit more of a beast of a GQ than what Dad's got with the Y62 at home or whatever, and it's really something that's taken off the 4-wheel drive scene, and the fact that it's at an event like that, and there's cars, they're running them at the strip, they're driving them down the street parade now, back
like the numbers, did you ever see what numbers actually came to Rocky for that weekend? Like they must, like it was like Beef Week style crowd for the weekend, I don't think there would have been a room spare.
Well, I think they actually called it the street parade is Australia's biggest street parade. So
really?
bigger than Summer Nats. They get more cars, more spectators, more cars, and everything like that compared to Summer Nats.
Well, there was over 1,000 cars.
Unbelievable, eh?
Yeah.
Actually, I think it was your video of it must have been at the back of the showgrounds there. Did you put just the sheer number in that back area there? That was just crazy. And then the weather, it looked like it wasn't going to play the game, and then it came perfect just right at the right time, didn't it? So
it did. They jagged it.
Yeah, it was perfect because I must admit, for all us locals, like when we were sitting there in the morning going,
this is not good.
This is bad, guys. This is really bad. But no, just absolutely nailed it. And it turned out to be a great time. And the street drags were good. The burnouts were good.
So talking to Dave too, they said that they're going to try to expand a little bit next year. The team are working with him to put on a bit more of a display. Possibly even some off-road stuff.
Cool.
But it'll only be like display wise. Obviously, room's a factor, but try to bring a new element into the scene to get some more eyes on these cool machines and what they can do.
Yeah, absolutely. What a perfect thing. And it's just so good to see the guys again. Like you said, Dave Casey deserves a big pat on the back with that because he does put a lot of work in behind the scenes on that sort of stuff, and he's doing a great job with that. So the Stockers with Lockers boys. So
100%.
Yeah, and actually talking about that while we're going, we've sort of glossed a few things, but for all our listeners out there, make sure you get on the socials too and support these guys. The Dobinson's King of the Strip and whatnot, and as well as Dobinson's.
Well, Dobinson's in general,
and all these guys that were mentioned, Shucker and Alan Cornick, which is Corn Speed Shop. You should get on there. Pig Motorsport. We've had Pig on before. Nick Hogg. Well worth getting on their pages and keeping up to date because they're just building cool stuff.
They're just building cool stuff, and they they have a ball when they did it. Just a great circle of friends. You can see they back each other up, and they're great. Really proud of the local CT boys. They're doing such a good job.
Yeah, absolutely. Oh, well, and again, I know this is just the crew that we see, but like Jeffro Charles, he's over in WA. He's buying a house on actually must be like tomorrow or something, or Wednesday or something like that. Couldn't make it over this time, but sharing videos, sharing this, sharing that. It's just so cool that he's even though they're just people doing what they can for this sort of section, aren't they?
Yep.
So it's cool. The Dobinson boys did a great job. They saw a bit of a market with it, and we talked to him last year before the event. I talked to Ben, and it was really, he's a super humble guy, super nice guy. You guys can go back and watch that interview, and he's pretty chill about it all. Just wants to do a bit of racing, but what they're providing is something great because it is,
Well, it's hard to get events, and obviously, the whole consensus behind what we're talking about today is losing events. It's just so you're under the spotlight every time you turn around and do something now, and it's just hard. Although it's cooler to see the cars getting better and better, but the with phones and more people and more publicity, it's easy to shine a bad light on some of this.
Here you go, guys. Stop putting stupid stuff on the internet, please. For goodness sake. But anyway, that's what you're saying, isn't it, Bill?
It is. We can lose it in a day, we just got to be smart. We used to I do believe in putting your phone in the pocket every now and then and just put that in the memory bank.
Enjoying life, definitely. But it's hard, and it's good that again these guys are doing these sort of things where you can go and have a good play. You can race your mate. You can talk some good smack and have a great time.
Yeah.
And, you know, and even it's kind of cool in the sense that you really do know too, like, you know, for years, I wonder what that car would do over there. You know, I wonder what a stroker flying 5.2 litre, you know, 4.8 would do. Well, here it is. This is what they do. Like,
and then like to see them coming up with their own ideas, like, should I run 4-wheel drive?
Yes.
I don't know. Well, maybe I'll put it in and see what happens.
Do the little tires make a bigger difference as we think?
Should we do skids? Should we not do skids?
Yeah, that was interesting, wasn't it? So a lot of them chose not to.
Well, I think the big thing is a Nissan automatic front locking hubs, because if you did a skid, and then you went to put it in four-wheel drive,
it might take
and one of those hubs decided not to go in, could be a spectacular start.
It would definitely eject.
Driving.
Yes, absolutely. No, it was cool. It was very cool. So yeah, no, I enjoyed every aspect of it. I don't know. I literally had nothing bad to say about the whole weekend. It was a charm. The lineups weren't crazy.
Looking forward to it next year. They are, Benny was saying they're going to try to probably shift the date away from the Finke. Obviously, it's hard for us because you know, look, and there's a big Finke crowd. Like, it's not just about people coming to race, but you know, there's a lot of people that head to the centre of Australia this time of year, and now that motorsport is sort of breaching out to different events, and it would be good to see some of these line up, that we can get vehicles to more racing and just more publicity, the better.
Yeah, absolutely. It's hard, isn't it? Because, I mean, it has notoriously been hard for us to get to King of the Strip just because of the clash with Finke. But then the flip side, you know, because I hear what you're saying, I think it's probably overall a positive thing. But then, you know, like, it was good for Jeffro Charles, wasn't it? Because he made it one trip and did a loop and went to Finke. So, you know, there's these plus and minuses no matter which way.
He is a pretty wild dude, though. Like, seriously, he drove his GU from Perth. I think he even switched the pulleys on the supercharger, so he got better fuel, or took it off.
Yeah, I believe he tried taking the belt off, but I think it was a bit of a foul. I think it wasn't.
Yeah, So he drove the same car over here, and ran awesome times. Did he kill the gearbox?
Yeah, first pass.
A couple of years.
A couple of years ago, killed the gearbox.
Yeah,
and
did he bring his car? It will be this group text will go off in a second.
I'll get this all wrong. This is all wrong. Sorry, boys.
First year he ran and did well and had a great year.
Yes,
but then the next
year
went
to Finke.
Yes,
on the way home. Yes,
correct. And then the next year he broke the gearbox.
Left the car here. Went back home. No, put a gearbox in his suitcase.
Carry on. Went to Fraser.
flew back to here and put the gearbox in it.
And then he towed a trailer all the way home.
Yes.
So you know, like, wild.
Yeah,
like, it's because that's, again, does it get any more streetcar than driving your patrol around the country?
But see, that's the same principle that Russ has had his whole life. Is we take it to the race. You know, we drive it there. We drive it home. It might have one wheel driving, and I've seen him do that. I've seen he smashed everything out of it except for one CV. So he runs the air locker with one CV to drive home.
Yes.
And still trying to do skids.
He'll tell you that. He'll tell you that never happened.
Yeah, it happened. I saw it happen. I was there.
It's so fun. So no, it's very cool stuff. And again, I suppose that's what's bringing it all together, isn't it? Like, and then it's all these groups that probably wouldn't have mixed previously. Now they're going to an event. Like, you think about the great people we've met through Finke, Gundy, Don Riverdash, all these people. And well, there you go, man. Like, the guys we're talking to now are people that we've met through racing.
That's right.
So, you know, as in even down to Lowndes, Toby, all these guys, you know, that it's people that you just meet in this environment that's there, because I think it's a bit more relaxed, the off-road environment, isn't it? Like, it's so good.
Yeah, it is. And to see, you know, these crossover races too, like, you know, Toby's obviously blown a big flag for the off-road scene in you know, number one on the bikes, but then also in the trucks. Doing so well. Poor buggers had a bad run at the 500 again.
It's hard.
Yes, they must feel like they got a monkey on their back. But for those who don't know, that Tobes has raced the 500 on the weekend with Wheelie, and they're both flying back over to race Finke this weekend. So I know Jono's out at Alice now with Toby's car, and I would imagine Keys is over at the well, he probably I'm not sure where Keys was, but I know his crew would have Paulie's G6 over there, the geyser truck.
Rumor is Keys is currently buying up every firework in Alice Springs, so there's not available.
I don't think it's too soon. We might park that one for now.
Let's get through the week.
Yeah, let's get through the week first.
Well, interesting. Let's circle back because we love a chat. Isn't it interesting? Because I was just thinking when you talk like that, because it's so true. Poor old Paul and Toby at the moment just can't seem to win a trick at the moment. They're on pace. Their build quality is second to none. Their team is spotless. Isn't it interesting how it goes? Because let's go back a couple of years. Remember Bryce Menzies? He couldn't put a foot wrong.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden, and nothing's changed because the team's still the best in the business, the best driver, the best gear. And then all of a sudden just went through like a little era
and that's that mental side of it. That it's not just mental in the car, it's mental in general. And I know I've been guilty of wanting to do well. And I actually, well, for me, I find that if I go there with an agenda to do something, it seems to always go a bit pear-shaped. Or maybe it doesn't go completely pear-shaped. Maybe a bit of it went pear-shaped, and then what you did then, you might have screwed up. But I find I race the best when I just go there and just shaking everything loose, just hang out, talk crap, but it does help when you got someone like Steve prepping the car.
Of course, the right people with you.
And you know that you can just leave that in the box, and it's you don't have to worry about that. He'll actually tell me to go away because I'm a pest sometimes. Never knew
when
that.
we say Steve, we're talking about the guy that just told you not to drive next year. Is that?
Hey, what am I?
A bit rough,
what am I talking
about? No, but you're absolutely right. And the reason that I brought up that Bryce Menzies example is that he just won the 500.
Yes.
So like talent for bucket.
Yeah.
Loads,
Look. I had them to take out the top spot. To be honest, they've more than done the job. It just didn't line up. So. It is what it is, I suppose.
And it was such an interesting race again because, there were some sprinters at the start.
Yeah.
We do this all the time. Who was there again was Larry Rossler and Rob Mack. In the top 5. They're just always there. They're so good. It's such an interesting race. And then, this guy has a little issue and this, it's just such a changing race. And it's so spectacular.
Luke McMillan is coming to a few issues as well. I mean, they've been, you talk about the other guys who have been running the same program for a long time and
strong
and weren't doing, were doing well, but then, something really clicked. They got that two-wheel drive racer on track, and then that, they were very
there was
consistent.
a period where you wouldn't bet against Luke McMillan. He was that fast.
Three-time Baja champion, 3-time 250 champion. Super consistent. And like you said, it's capitalizing when things are going your way and everything like that. Look at Renchie. Renchie had a run there where it was sort of like we probably should just all stay home. Yeah.
And it only then you forget that for those few years that he had engine issues, and then they sort of got on top of that, and then it's like his engine couldn't even blow up ever. So it was everyone has a cycle in it. And
well, you brought him up, so I'm interested in
this
that.
is a conversation Dan and I were having the other day. Yeah.
So the exact thing that you're talking about, he was the man, and I mean, Shannon's a legend, just so we're clear. But then he did have that period.
So crushed it in the Chenoa.
Yep.
Changed to the Jimco.
Yep.
Had some dramas. Didn't go that well. Took a bit of a break.
Did about 3 races.
Yeah. DNF'd a couple of them. Didn't do that well. Took a break. Went and got on top of the Jimco. Come out and was just a menace, just the Shannon that we all know.
Yep.
So now that same thing's happened. He's got the champion,
the Hammerhead.
The Hammerhead. Sorry, had a few dramas and we were only talking about this the other day where I was like, he sucked at Finke. No, I didn't mean suck.
You didn't say
suck.
Yeah,
no, I didn't use suck. But I was like, I didn't even realize where he finished. And Dan goes, he finished 4th.
Yeah.
I was like,
but he's got to the level where we're like,
that's
he had an off race.
If he's not on the podium, my mind automatically sort of assumes that he DNF'd because you don't expect him to not finish on the podium.
Yeah.
But he has taken a bit of time off, hasn't raced, the start of this season or anything.
Well, there's so much in it. It's interesting watching people's comments about what Toby does too. they've got a whole plan in their head of what they think Toby's doing, but he's he's here, he's there, that might come off, because one of the big ones Toby did actually say he was going to do the dual run earlier in the year, but he's got a job. His job is to run that rally bike and run it well, and it really come down to I think they would have liked him. Even Red Bull, I think, would have liked him to do Finke this year, but obviously he's smart enough to know that he's got to put his work into the rally bike stuff. And
well, I believe he's straight after Finke, essentially hopping on a plane and flying straight back to America to go testing again on the rally bike. That is a true story.
And he's leading the championship.
Yes.
So that's showing that he's got full control of what he's doing, but getting back to that, the choice between Finke and doing the rally, he had to do the R&D for Mexico or do it for Finke. And I don't think many people understand how much, even though Finke's such a short race, it's just so important when you're pulling a helmet on. It's a lot different to sitting in a roll cage.
100%.
Because when you make a boo-boo, your head hits the dirt, and then a bike tries to pull all your racing
Jack Simpson
off.
is another prime example of that this year. He's not racing due to his racing commitments in America. He's only just landed back in the country, and he said the same thing. He goes, at the level he wants to compete at Finke, the prep and effort and pre-running that he has to put in, that it's just he doesn't have the time available to do it, to be able to safely, competitively compete at the level he wants to. And that's probably the big thing as well. The asterisk in that statement is at the level that these guys want to compete at. Toby's not going there to get a spike. Jack Simpson's not going there to get a spike. They want to be.
Well, see, it's been a long time since Toby actually went out there and spent weeks and weeks and weeks running that track. Like he turns up there and just goes off what it used to be. And I'm glad that he's not just doing another winging it type race out there, because it's serious stuff. Like what Walshy's going to do, and a lot of them young fellows out there, they know they've got to put the work in to run the speed that they want to run.
It's definitely one of those ones where it's the risk versus reward for those guys is a phenomenal thing for them. Like you said, they're to be like it is for the cars. It's a sprint race for those guys. Like they're riding to the absolute limit, but they're also, they put a lot of hours in testing. They put a lot of hours into their suspension, a lot of hours pre-running that track, so they can do that speed as safely as possible as well.
Yeah, sorry, boys, I was dying over there. But yeah, like you were talking about, I know you got onto motorbikes there, but talking about some of the cars that are in there, I wanted to talk to you about, like, there's some good names in there. I mean, there always is. It's
AJ.
That's a great one. Fantastic. But Josh Howells obviously is always fast.
Oh, Howesy.
Yep. Craig Martin's there in the Alpha. A dad for Brett Martin. Glenn Owen's there again this year.
Yes.
None other than the famous Kent Battles runner as well. Like he's cracking along pretty well these days. So I wouldn't be
got that element cracking along well.
Yeah, absolutely.
Good car.
Yeah, 33 of Shannon Wrench is there. Trev Chandler is having a good run in the 37 at the moment. That's that Matrix.
Yep.
So, there is some really cool. I mean, I could list all of these. Mikey Zacher might be a little sneaky to watch through. I mean, I think he's going to be a bit down on horsepower potentially compared to some, but it's still a stout little Chev powered. Like, I mean, Wilsons have never been known for having bad motors, so it's going to be, but it's got big suspension. That's ex Mike Wilson Motorsports out of the States, so it's done some time in the big stuff, and the boys have been working there. And I mean, Mike Zacher can definitely steer. How it translates, because I mean, obviously he can steer, but coming out of a Can-Am where he's super fast, how that translates directly into a buggy, we're going to find out. You know what I mean? Like, he's got lineage of racers. So there's some good cars there. Like you said, Aaron James. Now, I also saw Tanner James on that list as well. So it'll be interesting to see whether he's made the decision, because Nutbag last year ran single seat, no GPS, just drove what he could see loose. Did he go, because it's a two-seater car that he converted to single-seater, like, you know what I mean? Like, or is it, it's wide enough is what I'm guessing.
Absolutely. It was a two-seater when it came into the country.
So I guess what I'm saying is that list saying that to me that maybe he's gone, well, if I'm going to have a crack, I'm going to have to run a GPS and someone, and imagine having Tanner, because Tanner knows the pace.
Yeah, look, the GPS is so much. Well, two things: the GPS makes you quicker, but it's also much safer.
Yes,
like it.
Oh, that's interesting, Bill. I like this, but it's interesting because there's really two thoughts on that, isn't there?
Mm.
About whether
Probably
it's
is, I know, but in our cab with Al,
You like
because well, Al knows speed. You know, like
Yep.
you could throw him behind the wheel and
Yeah.
he'd send the thing. You know,
Yeah.
but I look at it. You've just got that confidence that that you can stay in it, and
Yep.
because it's for a split second that you might have a big thick bit of dust.
Yep.
But with him looking the whole time and I'm looking the whole time, and you can push through that little bit of dust, and then the window opens up,
Yep.
and you haven't rolled off.
Totally agree.
Because we're out. We want to win when we run races, but I don't want to run over someone either.
Yes.
Like so I still have that. My days of just going with the looking at the tops of the trees. That that's Did you hear about that with Toby?
No.
I'll get back to that.
Yeah.
But I'd hate to have someone stopped on the track and clean them up and stuff like that.
It's loose. The first 30 Ks of Finke can be very
100%.
And that is obviously the argument
30 meters
against
back
GPSs.
Yes.
Well, that's why that's why I everyone's pushing to get that top spot in Prologue, because and you've got to fight that frustration a little bit to push in bad dust.
Yes.
But the GPS at least tells you when it's straight.
Yes.
And every you can hold the wheel straight and not run off the track. So to me, I think it's safer. I don't think you'd have to. But then again, I get your point. You could probably take that the other way.
And that's what I mean.
But then you combine GPS with the rally safe system, which then communicates car to car.
And I can see the safety aspect, because I just know how crazy it was. The one that we talk about when we were racing pre-GPS, obviously, is that just not knowing how many times we jumped off because you sort of yep, this is that, Bill knows this one. That's this, what I want to say,
crest,
and you just jump straight off it and it turns to the right, and you're like, "Ooh, we're in the wrong spot."
I've done that.
We're definitely in the wrong spot.
Nearly landed on the service road there.
Exactly. So exactly. So knowing, being able to set the car up that that you're going sweeping right,
and we can put airplanes on there so we can when to send it.
Honestly, a great story. I love that story. But it'll be interesting to see, because I'm not against it by any means. It's just interesting to hear racers talk about GPSs, because obviously, and I mean, this is always, it's going to be polarizing. Some hate it, some love it. You know what I mean? And I can see both sides of the equation. I don't have a horse in the race, honestly, Bill.
We obviously we did, where I probably get my bias from is racing in the US.
Yes.
When they're longer, big races the tracks can get no bunting. There's you get out the middle and middle of nowhere in Vegas, Reno, and all you have is the GPS, and I feel some comfort in it, and that even that Al's done so much with that GPS setup too. So he's super confident with it. And I like it because even if you pick a bit of a bad line, likes of it, Don, you might pick one of the wrong lines, and he's got the confidence to say, no, stay in it. It's going to work out all right at the end of that.
In 20 meters, we're going to be back where we need to be.
But he'll say in you get over to the left.
Work your way to
the left.
That makes a lot of sense. No, and listen, again, I can't stress enough. I sort of don't have a fight in it. It's just interesting to hear different people talk about it. Hey, so again, just running through some of the cool things, obviously, because I ran quickly, not even touched the surface, but of the buggies. But there's also some awesome trucks, obviously, as you know. There's obviously Gartner's there, but also Ben Gartner's racing as well.
Run the old truck. Yeah,
exactly. So Bo, obviously,
Bo's going to be pretty red hot, man.
And so I know nothing, Bill, and you can just say don't know if you want to. But was there a decision? Bo's running his truck and going to?
100%. Yeah,
100%.
Well, Wheelie's truck's here. The all drive Mason is here.
Yeah. Smoothies.
Yeah, smoothies. Yeah. In the
absolutely.
same camp. Yeah. So we didn't even touch on Smoothie. He's got the, one of the flashiest, nicest things that's ever built to go on roads, and the Masons in the US are just killing it at the moment. It's
sorry, Bill, just to clarify really quickly, so it will run as a class 8 truck?
It will be a class 8.
Yeah, so against Bentley?
Against Bentley, yes.
And all the patrols.
And Sandy Bowman.
So Joe Gibbs engine,
Mason-matic,
Mason-matic,
paddle shifts.
She's $1 million truck. That's
And let's keep spitting, Toby's running very much the same setup as last year. Nothing.
Yep, pretty much. Yeah. Like honestly, Toby hasn't had much time to look at the damn thing. To be perfectly honest,
If it ain't broke, don't fix it.
Yeah,
100%.
and obviously with the uncertainty of the race, like everyone was, wondering. Well, it definitely affected. It's one of the reasons we're not racing.
Yep.
Because we were behind the 8 ball and probably not. We'd have to throw our old engine in the thing and get back out there. And we've done so much work to the car because we're obviously improving our car with a full rebuild this year. So we just put it in up. We're not gonna slave and make shortcuts just to make a race that mightn't be on. So we had to call it, and we understand the situation that the Finke guys are in. That's why we're going out there to help them. But yeah, it's and obviously Toby's guys couldn't, all his US guys couldn't come over. So they're all staying back home. So I think it's going to be a year of everyone just sort of helping each other and get through. But yeah, honestly, I don't think the car will run well. Toby, we all know that he could probably push a wheelbarrow down that track faster than most people could race it.
Absolutely. So. Yep. Don't disagree at all. Cade Crawford's out there racing as well. So that'll be pretty cool to see.
You can't forget Travie.
No, absolutely not. Trav is very fast. Yeah, it's going to be very interesting.
It's going to be a big year for the boys. Such a sad thing losing their dad this year. And I was so glad I could get over there with the boys to celebrate his life and what a life it was in the off-road scene. In
general.
So pretty proud of the boys. It'd be great to catch up with the crew out there and do what we.
So seeing as we're doing a podcast, because another thing we talk about is what Trav are we going to see? I don't want to say that badly. It's a good, but Trav.
Oh, I think
it's been a championship-minded Trav this year.
You're going to see a pretty dialed-in Trav, I reckon, mate. Yeah,
because we were impressed at how focused and everything he was at round one.
Round two at Pinkeri as well.
He knew what he was doing. He knew where he had to be. Whereas, let's just say Trav of, say, 2013.
What, knocking the guy over, holding the sign behind the buggy?
Yes. That was.
I did really like that. Trav.
If you're not sure what we're talking about,
I still think the highlight is that OBR video where he said, "Oh well, we're in first by whatever he was, 20 minutes away. I'm not going to take it too hard." The next footage is in the dust, and it's just red lights at 6. It's just bouncing off the limiter. That was a different animal. That Trav, and Bo's that animal as well.
Yeah.
There's a few of them that are. Yeah, and that's another.
Head on over to you talk about socials. Head on over to their YouTube channel, Out of Bounds Racing, and you'll see what we're talking about. But
Hey, and they deserve a shout out too. While we're talking about media stuff, that's one team that have stepped the game up with their videos and Huddy and all the other stuff they're going. Man, it's just their quality. So follow those guys and just check out what they're doing because it's a far cry from some dude with an iPhone. I'm telling you, they're doing a great job. So it'll be good to see. And again. Yeah, no, I won't put any mockers on because commentators wreck everything. But it'll just be such a great year.
I think everyone's just this year though. It's good to see. I know Toby's probably feeling a bit behind the 8 ball. Having to go over and do the 500, but we know that's what he does for a living. So he'll be making no excuses. And
it's hard too because it's seat time. He's comfortable in the truck. He's I know it's different, but
if it's one man that eat pressure for breakfast. It's Toby Price. We that year when he first brought the Tisco truck in, they were literally collecting it from the docks to run out there, and he went with full Red Bull media, made documentaries about it, talked about the race, had a series going on YouTube, and he hadn't even driven the truck, and he rocked up and did what he did, So that's a man that
even down to they binned the guys at the first time, no fault of his own. But right at that second, there was no truck, there was no this. I know they fixed it and they did a great job. But that guy's dealt with adversity.
Brought it in on 7 cylinders.
Yeah, in second, first in class. Unbelievable. Talking through, sorry, boys. I mean, wow, what a list we've got. We've obviously also got, I was going to bring up Nicholas Cummins in the 479. That's the Lime truck, the Brenthal.
Yep.
And I'm just impressed with them. I want to give them a shout out because, how do I say this politely? Because I don't want to sound like they were always fast. But when we saw them at St. George, they were how do I say this? They were in the race, but they weren't at the front of the race. Whereas like St. George this year at the 900, like they were in that race until they broke the gearbox. So they were having good times. They were running good competitive laps. Like they had the truck a lot more dialed in. Because you remember the first St. George, I hope I'm not standing on anyone's toes. Their mechanics like, these guys are idiots. They know nothing. But it was real uncomfortable. It was jacking in the rear. It was none of that at this St. George. So I think we're going to see McIntyre. That's right. So I think we're going to see a different Nicholas Cummins this year. It's going to be interesting to see that truck race, as well as they've got that Brenthal buggy as well that they've done a whole heap of work to. I think it had, don't quote me on any of this, guys, but I think it had like a Renault RN4 gearbox in the back of it or something real weird. It was like a Renault Auto thing.
Is that kind of like a buggy thing?
Yeah. See, he doesn't know. He go, oh, go and put your patrol diff in your geezer, mate. Just kidding, guys. Don't stab me. But anyway, it had like this weird auto 3-speed thing, and that's what took them out of the 900.
Yeah.
And I think they've gone to an Albans and all the other good gear, and so it'll be interesting to see how that goes too. You know, like obviously it's always just good to see guys getting in faster racing, doing things like that.
And you know, like we got Greg. As always, red hot.
Greg Gardner with a 7-litre.
With a 7-litre.
I
love it. I was just going to let the silence, just because I was just thinking about what that motor's going to sound like. Yeah.
Does it still do 9,000 RPM?
Oh,
because I think it probably
guarantee
does.
it's going to do 9,000.
And if it doesn't, it will.
Yeah.
Craig, these lights on the dash. It's the rev limiter.
Make them go away. Yeah. Change gears, you idiot.
No, so good. GG's just a different animal, as we keep talking about. So keep a good eye on
But you know, like all these guys too, I know it's one of our concerns, and we're trying to remedy that as well. Is chucking a 7-litre in at Finke. We're getting in on vapors with our fuel capacity, so not a lot different to running the McIntyre race. You know, guessing whether you're actually going to make it to the other end, because that's going to be a boo if you don't do that, because it'll go from hero to zero real quick,
very fast.
So yeah, and you know, it's interesting to see some changes. I think I know, talking to likes of Bo and them, they're really happy with their package on with a little bit bigger truck and bigger motor. I think you're going to see some pretty cool stuff.
Tell you what, it is a beautifully turned out package too, isn't it? Like, it's just so nice.
Well, they boys always have their gear looking, look Mickey Mouse,
yeah. No, just start to finish, such a beautiful thing. Now, I suppose the other thing that we need to talk to. So, and listen, we didn't even touch on all the classes, because just quietly, us three, we love all the classes, like Pro, Light, Sportsman, all the other things that are coming in. I'm even getting sold, Billy. This is a big call, and I've got to retract over the years, but I'm even getting into the Can-Ams and side-by-sides a little bit. They're getting it to be fast.
Oh, they're quick. They are quick.
Did you just mute me?
I think.
Anyway, but the moral of the story is there's a lot of young fellas coming through that class that if they get the opportunity to move up, because it's obviously there's a bit of this to get into a bigger car, but it's just it's such a great feeder. Like,
young Camillaries out there, obviously, with Comiskey Mining, old Bretto. And so the
have a look on the entry list. DC is the captain there, James Cook.
Oh yeah. Oh well, I
started calling him the captain, mate. James
wrong.
Cook.
That's wrong. But I mean, he would
the
have to
dog.
be for the points, wouldn't he?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, he's done pretty well. I mean, he did win round 1 of the AORC.
Yeah, 601 James Cook.
Yep.
Greg Campbell's there. Jeff McNair. This is what I mean. Like, well, initially I try to ignore Class 6. I know everyone will get really mad at me, but anyway, that's the reality. But like, you know, you start going through like Zach Marsh, you know, he's always fast. There's just lots and lots of fast people in that class that are surprisingly, and you know, they're young, they're talented.
Well, we're talking about classes now as well. Like you said, we can't forget about the man Martin.
Oh, Pro Light. We were talking about Pro Light. Well,
right.
What I was going to say is actually, you just see it starts flooding back. Man, I've got to start looking. Is
Brenty Martin in the V12? No,
that's his own class, mate.
Oh, sorry.
No, I was about to say, gentleman, Jeff Pickering.
Yes,
so he should be in his
Raptor Ranger.
Yep.
Yes.
So, and you know, Class 7's always one of those things that's just awesome to see. Class 8, obviously, it's going to be a bit of an interesting because we are going through a massive change with Class 8. That's just what we're doing.
Absolutely.
It's been coming for a few years, ladies and gentlemen. I mean, Colin Hunter really started it a good couple of years ago when he turned up with $1 million Class 8.
Dakota,
Yeah, against everything else. Now, I don't think the technology was there at this point.
Yes.
The technology's there now. Like, I mean, these cars are going to be fast.
Yes.
Bentley's been running fast for ages, but now it's going to be interesting because Smoothie's going to push him along hard.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, that's a fast car.
Yeah, and well proven that Mason as well. Like I said,
right.
it's not a shrunk down Mason. Yeah.
Boy, isn't it crazy? See, you got to roll through these lists. Phil Lovett is racing a Class 8 racer as well. So, there's going to be essentially 3 or 4 trophy trucks in Class 8 four-wheel drive this year, and all that R&D and all that development comes along. And you're smiling at me like...
no, sorry, because you're talking about Phil Lovett. I love it.
Yep.
But one of the things that's a joke. No, one of the things that I really like about Phil is that mad dog mentality from his motorbike racing days still comes through. Do you know that he races that car with an open face helmet? So no windscreen, nothing, but the old open face helmet and a set of motor.
Got the bugs in the thing.
Full Ivan Stewart style, you know what I mean? But so at Charters Towers, just sucking dust like a madman because he had engine problems. But still ran an open-faced helmet, like the mic and everything. Yeah, it was like watching a bit of Ivan Stewart back in the day, but an absolute mad dog. And that's that motorbike mentality that we're talking about.
Yeah. And then the other class that's always interesting to watch, I know it's, but it's not. They're running in the top 10, which is mad, is the Class 10 cars.
Oh, yeah. Well, you got Malsey. Is Malsey on the list?
Oh, Malsey. I didn't read his name, but he is absolutely on the list.
Oh, yeah.
So, because he's on a few, as you cruise the old stock book and that, he's on a few sneaky lists for top 3s, which I think is very... it might be sneaky because he might not have the horsepower of some of the real big cars, but man, the development they got and the way that it's a BMW motor.
D-stroked BMW
the
V8.
sound of it.
It runs strong.
Yeah. And am I right? I should, but it's 11,000 RPM. They rev that thing. Like
and that and he can prologue it too.
Yeah.
Like he's always sort of in the single digits with his prologue. So.
Absolutely. Yeah. He's and local, got that track knowledge, plenty of time going up and down that track. And I don't mean on the weekends. I mean, he's competed there for a long, long time. And the suspension, everything set up on that Razorback is well and truly sorted for Finke and stuff like that. So, should be a good one to watch.
Yeah, it'll be cool because I love that you had your list before because, again, ladies and gentlemen, I hope it's coming across. Like, we dead set love this crap. Like, there's group text.
Put you on the spot.
Oh, no. Don't
Come on now. We're going to do it.
I don't know.
Even just give us your top 4. Top 4.
Yeah, I don't know. There's so
in any order.
There's so many. There's so many good ones. Like, can I just start listing a few of them that? So in the top, who could potentially be on the box? I absolutely think, obviously, Toby, Bo, Greg Gartner, Trav. Can absolutely, all day, every day. Those guys can win it. Shannon Wrench can win it. AJ can win it. Ryan Taylor, if he has a great run, will be in the top 3 potentially. Like he was stonking on the way home.
Yep.
But that race gets them for some reason. I love Ryan. Obviously, we know each other very well. We've raced their old car and everything like that. But for some reason, they just have crazy things like they're smoking in 5th and the turbos fall off the thing. The V-band failed. Like who has failed V? I know it happens, but it's just unlucky stuff like that.
It's refreshing to see sort of going that carefree approach that they're going on at the moment, which is working well for them too.
It is. Oh, here you go. We'll get deep with the Taylors, and I love the Taylors, but I reckon that Ryan as a whole needs to just drive the way that Ryan drives. Like Josh navigated for him, guys, just so Ryan is best, exactly what you said, when he's carefree, and if he can keep the pressure off his back, he is an animal in a great way. So I think that what always happens is that then Ryan ends up self-inflicted. No other. He, again, loved the dude like a brother, but no doubt he'll start thinking championship, and that's when he gets a bit tired, or he'll make decisions that he thinks is better when really Ryan's Ryan. He's got championship papes, brother, you do you, and you're the man at the end of the day, and that'll be perfect. Yeah. I don't know, and because you actually just said the same thing, you understand. I think Ryan probably, I'm not telling any secrets to anyone, like, you know what I mean? Whereas there's probably other guys that work better. Like I probably see, say, Shannon's one that I think that he works better under pressure, where he knows where the set points are, where like I've seen Shannon, as you have, where he runs at a whatever pace is, and then all of a sudden, like Trav is a prime example. Trav comes out and smokes him by 2 minutes, and then Shannon just steps up to that pace and does what he needs to do. You know what I mean? Like I think Shannon's like a, you know, that this has to be right, everything has to be in position. Whereas I feel, I don't know if this makes sense. I'm sure it does make sense to you, but Ryan can have 3 different wheels on his buggy, and if he's having a good day, he's fast.
Yeah,
you know what I mean? Like he can have a fun cheese cutter front wheel hanging off, and it can be on 3 wheels, and he, as long as he's happy in the car, then he's fast. He'll win races. So yeah, so I definitely, I'd love to see them get on the podium, man. It'd be so good for everything. And again, see, this is what I mean. Like, there's just so many. Who am I? Like Howells is there because I mean he can obviously run that pace. Like who am I? There's got to be more. There's like, and that's why. So this takes us back to when we talk about, there was a dude on Facey. I don't even know who it was, and I don't want to have a stress about anything because I like everyone's just having a chat. But you know, they were like, oh, I think it was Kent Battle now, I think, because Kent Battle's always in trouble. But he said that there's 50, because I didn't even mention Habies are in there.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like the more that I just get on, Kent Battle's another one that, given the right day and the right time, and he's getting more and more experience in the car, like I definitely think he could top 5 it. You know, he could do better depending on who else does what and how it plays out.
And like it's everyone's got to play. It's a bit like Mike Tyson. Everyone's got to play until you get punched in the face, and Finke's definitely get a punch in the face.
Yeah. And the dude that you think's going to win it breaks a CV or smashes a gearbox on the first lap, and you're like, I never saw that coming. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Well, Toby's been that guy, even like, and obviously he's a legend, but you know, and he'll tell you the story himself, like how close he's been almost every year to not finishing that race.
Yes.
You know what I mean? Like he really hasn't had like, even if it seems like it on the Red Bull video, there's always something in the background, isn't there?
Yeah.
And that's probably true of everyone. What about poor old Shannon Wrench? This is years ago now. I think I'm talking about 2008. And, you know, they got to the end and it was the last corner and it broke a CV. And, you know, that's it. The race is over.
Yeah.
Bentley came in with his CV literally clanging and falling out. We could hear
Still
it
got the W.
Yeah, got it. Yeah. But you know what I mean? Like you said, the plan's all good until and oi, here you go, Bill. I'll make this will get me in trouble because a few people will not like this statement, but in some ways, I'd actually love to see, and no disrespect to anyone, I'd love to see some mad sneaky come out like a dude on a KX privateer that no one knows, and you're like, how the hell did he top? Like, who is this bloke? You know what I mean? Like, it'd just be funny to see the cat among the pigeons almost. You know what I mean? Like, because again, talking motorbikes now, like obviously Walshy, you know, legend, Longy, legend. You know, there's all, like you said, Callum Norton, like there's all these guys. And when you actually really start thinking about, I mean, safe money, hey, you know, you put your money on Walshy, you know, safe money, you put your money on Toby or Bo or, you know, or like one of those, you know, guys that are proven. But it's also like exciting to think that.
There's always going to be that young one that's stepping up.
Hungry,
so they once and you know, like I think, you know, just from observation, it gets to a point where it seems to click for them, and they seem to be able to get that extra bit of grit or whatever it takes to get going. And I saw that come from Grabo to Toby when back in the early days.
Well, I mean, I'm glad you brought that up because that right there exudes my point more than anything.
Yeah.
In 2010, other than a few dudes that knew who he was on the AORC, like the enduro scene, really not many people knew about Toby Price. He came and won that sucker.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like that, like you can say you knew who he was. Most people in 08 didn't know who Toby Price was unless you were talking about it. He was racing a KX out of New South Wales. You know what I mean? Like
that's right.
He won that sucker. Like,
and it's always exciting. Like I think you're right. It'd be nice to see a young fella that even, you know, if they didn't get the win, they punched it right up near the top and get that fire in their belly. And
and it's just exciting to see that. Where the heck did that guy come from? But again, listen, again, all these people that we talk about, like, you know, are uber, you know, respectful of the fact that they put in the work. All these people, like Walshy's put in the work, you know, Callum Norton's put in the work, you know, even again, Daniel Sanders would have been a great year to watch that race. So yeah, unfortunately, you know, Oh, so unfortunately, you know, it's going to be a great one to watch. And now it probably does take us back, Bill. Like, you want to recap, because are we looking at sort of wrapping this up?
Yeah.
Because what I really think, sorry, I'm dying over here. We need to reiterate about the meterage. 30 meters is
Yes.
the key with Finke.
Yeah, the key. We got the message through. We got the message through from the guys at Finke. Like, we really we can't hammer this home hard enough, guys. If you're out there spectating, if you're heading out to the race, we'll just let Danny go die somewhere. But yeah, like, get 30 meters back from the track. Obey everyone that tells you to move. If you need to move, no attitude, just move.
Yeah.
You know, this is a year to pull everyone pull their heads in. There's going to be changes. We don't want to, like, the guys, don't give the guys attitude that you've done this for 100 years and you've got the right to do it.
Yes.
We won't have a race if because what happened, and it was very difficult, I would imagine, for the committee and the sponsors and the organisers to have the coroner's report come out 4 weeks before the race. To me, that was just, you know, nearly a nail in the coffin to have it that close. So these guys have worked really hard. They're still working right now to thrash and get this stuff through, to provide the entertainment for you guys to go have it. So just go there, ask plenty questions. You know, don't, if you find an official that looks like they know what they're talking about, just ask them to make sure that you're doing the right thing. But it's pretty common sense. There's going to be signs. There's going to be definitely a few, like I said, a few changes, but just work with them, and everyone will have a bloody great year out there.
Yeah, absolutely, Bill. Now, just again, because we really want to nail this home, guys, because obviously we love Finke. We want this. Everyone loves Finke. Talk to people everywhere that you know, they really are into it. And I can't stress this enough. But what I think of the other thing that we really need to recognize in Australia is they do not race like this in America anymore. Like that, those old days of wild race. Like, if you go to Mint, you're in a spectator area.
Yeah. So to bring things into reality, and like I said, for pound, if you go to Mint, there's spectator areas that you pay to go in with security, and you're locked in a car, like you're locked in a fence.
Yep.
And there's rules where the cars can't pass going past you, and you know, and that's the progression of where, you know, we'll see our racing go. But
we are the last race that we can run like this other than Mexico.
Yeah.
So if you're not in Mexico, there's and you know, Mexico's a law unto itself. So that's not sort of a real world for us Westerners, is it? So I know where, like, you're just driving it home that how important it is, and to realize how rare what we have is. I know we've been doing this for generations, and a lot of guys, you know, it's probably hard because even we're crying out because it's some locals too. You know what I mean? I know there's a lot of guys that run from everywhere, but you know, like, it's for everyone to understand how important it is.
Well, it's so important for Alice Springs. Like, Alice Springs has been having a rough go in the last few years, and you know, they've got more than enough trouble getting everything in line. You know, to lose races, like to lose a draw card like Finke would just be another nail in the coffin for a town that's struggling a bit. And you know, like, yeah, it's just so important that people listen to the and definitely don't give any official a hard time, because they're going to be that they've already done, you know, up until now they've probably done more work than most Finkes before the race even starts.
And they're volunteers. It's not a paid position. They're volunteers. So they're just trying
well, you could hear Kels this afternoon, like tonight, she was, you know, literally worn out already. So everyone,
listen, I imagine that this is a big race to organize, even if it was
yes.
right. Like,
yeah. So what the pressure these guys have had put on them in the last 4 weeks would have been incredible. If you and I've talked about it, we thought there was more chance that the race wouldn't run than did. So they've pulled something out of the bag there. So yeah, by all means, we want people to get out there and enjoy it, and don't be shied off the race. You know, it's a sign of the times. You know, that's the first accident in a long time. There were the media report to me, and this is my opinion only. Like, so don't. Yeah, this is not official because I'm not an official guy, but to me, they got a real bum steer to get the report 4 weeks out from the race. I think that's really unfair, and also the media reporting on that from the ABC I thought was pathetic. Like, it really didn't sum up. It summed up a one-sided view of it, and they didn't take into account what that race means to Alice Springs, because it's a slippery slope we travel down. If when do main roads start picking up the responsibility for people killed on bad roads? Like, it's an accident. It happened. The guy was told to move a bunch of times.
Yep.
A
part failed.
A part failed.
Yeah.
That's the trifecta of an incident.
An accident. Yeah.
Yeah,
and I think you hit the nail on the head there, Bill, when you said the guy was told to move.
He was told to move,
and no disrespect to his friends, his family, everything like that. Like, it is an absolute tragedy.
Yeah,
but it's one that we want to avoid happening again. That is worst case scenario. Hey, as competitors, people that have raced at this track, like, think about the poor driver and the navigator that were involved in this.
Yeah, there seems to be a big push
every day.
There seems to be a big push recently for everyone just to stay in their rooms and get your information from your computer screen and not get out and live your life.
Yep.
But like, the reason we love racing is because we're out doing things that are difficult.
Yep.
Like, if it was easy, everyone would be doing it.
Yep.
So it's just,
and I guess you're saying all the things that we love as spectators out there are the reasons that they want to take us away.
Yes.
So if we respect it a little bit and understand what the concerns are, it's not just
just remember why you're out there. It's not just another BNS. It's not just another trip to the races, and like that is a side of society that I am probably pretty annoyed with, because they've ruined a lot of things. Like, young people don't get to experience things because of a few. Like the BNSs don't happen anymore because it got out of control and they got them shut down. But like, even family, like even picnic races end up, they struggle to enjoy the freedoms that we used to enjoy. So we've got an element of people that are probably coming to these races that are just out to just be selfish.
Yep. Well, and the big one too is, if a volunteer or an official's asking you to move, they're not asking you to move because they want to be fun police or they want to be Nazis or heck, they probably don't even want to really have to be there moving you on. No. It's just what we have to do to keep this race going.
And if they sound they could even sound grumpy, like, deal with it.
Yeah.
Like, just put your hand up. They're there. The race is on.
Yep.
No, and that's a good point, Bill, because as of a couple of weeks ago, the race, but it was potentially not on, and that would have been a travesty for all of us.
Well, you can imagine what it's going to be like for me to go out there and not race.
Oh,
but I'm going anyway because I want to make sure this goddamn race keeps going, and to see my boys and make sure they're all going well, and it's going to be great. I'm looking forward to it. I'm going to get up early Wednesday morning and boost out and then enjoy that trip out there, which is always fun.
Listen, in many ways, it's probably you'll enjoy it, I reckon, Bill. Like, it's funny coming from every so if you guys, we've all done different things, bikes and racing and cars. Like, some of the best trips are the weekends where you're not racing. I don't obviously racing's the best ever. Like, let's pull it back, but it's amazing how much fun it is when you don't have that overarching responsibility of racing a car.
Well, I'm not missing packing.
Yes, all that stuff.
And
you said boosting across, like, it's not trucks and trailers and cars and pre-run cars and motorbikes. Like, you can just I'm going out with a swag in a Y62 this year. How easy is that?
Yep.
Yeah. So no, it'll be pretty fun. It's going to be a great year. There's no question about that. And let's just crank it up. It's going to be a good one. And in case everyone, obviously,
who's going to get the biggest jump at the finish line? There's one you'll answer.
See, Bill's just sad that he won't be there to do it.
I'm going to have to say, unfortunately, Greg's probably going to take that out.
There's nothing unfortunate about that.
No, it's annoying because I like doing it.
No, that's what I was about to say. Greg seems to save all of that finish line jump for the way home.
Oh, yeah,
jump off it.
That makes absolutely no sense.
But it's sick to watch.
I know,
like, it's so gangster.
0 speed time gain at all.
but lots of fans.
Yeah.
Lots of fans.
It's there for the crowd. Yeah.
Howes has done some Hellman jumps off that.
Oh, true.
Josh has, yes.
I'm going to stick with GG. I'm sorry.
Yeah, GG's definitely good. Listen, when you start there,
Yeah.
and you know that's a good one because that is one that every now and then just a rank outsider can surprise you. I think they surprise themselves when they do it.
Yeah.
I still remember the year that dude, this is not cars now, this is motorbikes. Remember the dude on like the RMZ? We're there because we're, as car racers, you're there very early. And then we used to cheer the bikes in because we're just mad bike boys. And old mate jumped and landed on the wrong side of the fence. He was outside. There's another reason to have 30 meters back, but he scared himself. He didn't know what to do. He had to
work out.
Good. He made it, we were blown away. But then he had to get off that service road to the left and get back on the racetrack somehow. So he lost about 3 minutes or something trying to work out how to get back on the track.
Oh, no.
He was just riding around in
there's
circles.
A fence there.
Yeah.
Anyway, it was an entertaining. It's always again,
and like that's what it's going to be at after the race is done. There's going to be more Finke stories.
Yeah.
There's going to be more
yeah.
laughable things that happen. And
Well, boys, we'll have to catch up again. Oh, it's my turn to return the ribbing. Hey, Josh, how are you going out to Finke this year? Not going to Finke.
No,
Bill, I'll see you in the commentary tower, my man, at Finke, and have a good time. And Josh,
there's that mute button. He just keeps doing it.
That's when he's the tech.
Yeah. The joys of being the boss. But no, unfortunately not making Finke this year. My birthday's in September, so I ended up having June girls.
Man.
Jeez, that's a bit too much information.
Where's that mute button? Anyway, the moral of the story is it's going to be a great year.
If you see me on the podcast with two black eyes next time, you know what's happened when I got home.
Nah, but it'll be a good year and it's going to be a great race. And I'll tell you what, boys, it was an absolute pleasure wrapping up because we did have a few races, didn't we? Like, again, we were talking about the King of the Strip. Lowndes was great. Thanks for organising.
We didn't even really touch on McIntyre because look, that was a hell of a good race.
Well, no one cares about that, mate. Some losers want it.
No. Well, maybe that time we can get young Al Cornick on for a wrap up.
Yes,
and we better get Comiskey on at some point soon too.
Brett would be pretty fun.
It would be a good time. We can fire up the smoker and have a good time again because Bill's always a winner there.
Well, that's what I had to duck off for.
Okay,
to warm tea up, mate. Well, we've got a bit cooking there, mate.
Good man, good man. All right, ladies and gentlemen, and with that, we wrap up. Bill, thanks for joining us as always, and this is the Dirtbags Podcast.